All right. Very, very chill, very relaxed. JSB Anime Cast episode 16. The Trigun Stampede episode.
Yeah.
Y'all knew it was coming. Actually, I don't know if y'all knew it was coming, but I'm happy it has arrived.
I knew it was coming.
Yeah, you knew this whole time.
That tracks.
Trigun Stampede, did that come out before or after we started doing this?
Around the same time?
Around the same time?
Maybe slightly before.
You heard me. You're hearing it now. We coincide with the birth of Trigun Stampede, which could be a positive or a negative depending on how you feel about it. But know that we are directly correlated to Trigun Stampede, and it was only a matter of time before we talked about our next of kin, Trigun Stampede.
Absolutely.
So you guys know the usual, pretty standard stuff. Let's talk about what have y'all been doing. It can be anime adjacent, it cannot be. We'll start with Rob because. All right, go ahead, Rob. What have you been up to? Anime adjacent, anime non-adjacent? I can't remember. Was JSB Gamescast supposed to come back already?
Not yet. It's coming back in June.
So soon. It's right around the corner.
Soon, right around the corner. Yeah. So we're preparing for that, making sure everybody has the equipment that they need for that, because that's also going to be moved to video.
Oh, okay.
So we can do some fun stuff around that.
Right.
So yeah, working those plans in. It's been a while since we've been together, so like trying to think of everything that I've been doing.
Yeah. It's been a while for this episode. Yeah.
Yeah. Let's see here. I went to KirbyCon recently. So this was a anime / music festival kind of convention down in Fort Lauderdale. 18 plus, so a lot of
no kids
allowed, right?
A lot of no kids.
Lot of no kids. They cannot see what's going on down there because it's kind of wild.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cheeks out all day.
Oh my god.
Lots of cheeks. I saw 2 Cloud cosplayers out there
with cheeks,
and they didn't have cheeks.
Okay.
But the people around them had cheeks.
Sure,
and they were just like, what are we doing here?
That's in character.
It kind of is, actually. Did Sephiroth do this? It was a fun time. I went down there with Ryan. He had a booth down there.
Okay.
And since most of his artwork is of the 18 plus variety, it was like, okay, let's try this show, see how well he does there.
Right.
It was one of his best sales, one of his best days. So that was pretty awesome.
Love that.
Anytime I go to South Florida, I am cursed. There's something bad that always happens when I go. The last time I went to Miami, I blacked out in a parking garage, and that was pretty funny.
Okay.
And then this time,
oh god.
So Ryan, he booked the hotel for us like a while ago, like back in January or something, a couple months ago, when we was planning this trip together. And we get down there and we pull up to the hotel and we're like, why does this seem empty? And then as you pull up to the door, it's like, why does it look like there's a mess inside the hotel? What's going on here? So we park and then we walk up to the door and there's a big fat notice of just like, this hotel has been condemned as of 3 weeks ago. And we're like, what? And there's another lady standing outside like, you guys had a reservation here too? And we're like, you too? Very awkward situation. A police officer walked up to us like, hey, what are you guys doing here? And we're like, we were supposed to be sleeping here, but clearly it's not going to happen.
Right.
So Ryan called up Priceline or whatever, and through like 40 minutes of talking to them, like he got his money back.
Right.
But it was clear, like they on the other end of that call, they never been in this situation either. They're like, what do you mean it's condemned? We had no notice of this.
Right.
It was a whole thing, but he got his money back. We found another place to stay. Everything was good, but it was a very weird experience. And
That's
just
wild.
like, this is the rib South Florida curse.
Something was bound to happen.
Something was bound to happen.
But this one wasn't your fault. That's different.
Well, me blacking out wasn't my fault either. I mean, I was
something bad always happens wherever you go through.
Damn, hit him with the facts.
Damn, true.
We're tying it in, gamers. Rob the Stampede.
I am the humanoid typhoon. But it was a fun weekend though. Like we had a blast down there.
That's good.
Some fun stories to come back with. Aside from that, I watched a couple of anime.
Ooh.
Or started to. I picked up Dungeon Meshi.
Oh.
I started watching that this morning,
Love
actually.
Dungeon Meshi.
I was just kind of laying in bed and I was just like, I want something to watch. And got through the first 3 episodes.
Yeah. How do you like it?
I'm a big fan.
Right.
As soon as we're done here, I'm going to go home and watch more of it.
Fantastic. Love the decision.
Yeah, it's great. Like, I fell in love with all the characters immediately. I was like, oh, this is way goofier. Like I already thought this was going to be goofy. Right. But it's like goofier.
Do you have a favorite character already? It's pretty early on, but...
Marcia?
Oh, yeah.
Marcia? The elf, right?
Yeah.
Elf girl.
The elf girl. Like, she's just freaking out over everything. Doesn't...
You know she's voiced by Emily Rudd in English?
Really?
Yeah.
I knew she voiced a role. I didn't know it was that one.
Yeah. That's her.
That's very cool. So she's getting into the VA stuff.
Yeah, really cool.
That's very fun.
Really fun role.
Yeah. Yeah.
She's very good at it, too.
So it's like seeing her freak out over every monster meal, right? It's just very funny. Senshi is great too. Big fan of Senshi, the dwarf.
Dwarf? Yeah. That's pro
Whose
ZD.
face doesn't change.
No, not at all. It's the same.
What's funny is my sister was...
Even when he's eating, he's just...
What's funny is my sister
Like he
was
doesn't
explaining to me, I guess he's like a huge like thirst trap character. Like as time has like passed.
Yeah.
And the like illustrator realized this
Yeah.
and like drew him even sexier as like time has passed.
That's
What's
what
a
I've been
thirst
hearing.
trap? What? Is that anime specific?
No.
Okay.
A thirst trap is like, how do you describe it?
I don't know.
I mean, we have Google, but I'm too lazy to look it up. It's like a post meant to generate interaction or attention directly targeting Coomers.
Coom?
Is that accurate? That's accurate, right?
What's
Oh
Coomers?
my God, Jesus Christ! What are we doing
man!
here?
Oh, Lord.
All right.
You're basically just creating a character that is like appealing and sexy, and people are thirsting over this character.
Right.
Oh, okay. Thirst as in like a sexual.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
I was like,
It was very fun
they
watching.
desire water when they see him? Like, do they want to get fit because of him? Like, because...
They want to get fit, all right.
Pretty sexy character, you know? So I get it. But yeah.
Interesting.
Fun factoids. Shouts Dungeon Meshi. Delicious in more than one way. Anyway.
Hey.
Watch that shows up on the next season, like headline.
Yeah, exactly.
Like season 2. Delicious in more than one way.
More than one way. So yeah, that show's great. I'm going to continue watching it.
Right.
I didn't know the OP was done by Bump of Chicken.
Right.
I wish somebody would have told me this because then I would have watched it immediately because I love Bump
No,
of
they
Chicken.
wanted to hold that surprise for
What
you.
style
Cool.
of music is that? Because I do remember it being distinct, but I can't remember
It's
what
like
the genre it is.
I don't know what genre you were putting in because I'm bad with music genres.
Was it? It wasn't ska-like, was it?
No, it's not ska. It's like it's very God, I don't know how to describe it either because they're such a unique sound.
I mean, look at the name.
Yeah,
but
like,
they do evoke like a lot of emotion. Not to say that other music genres don't, but like weirdly, there's this like it's almost like borderline like I don't want to say gospel because I don't listen to
Whoa.
like gospel, but like
there's an energy there.
There is an energy there that's very uplifting.
Yeah.
Uplifting is a very good word for
Yeah.
most of the music I've listened to from Bump of Chicken.
Interesting.
Like it always like it is hype, but it's not hype in like the traditional shonen way. It's very like, oh man, I have a lot of memories. I like a good word I would associate with Bump of Chicken is memories and like an appreciation for those memories. Because
Interesting.
you know I think of like the One Piece stuff.
Yeah.
They did and then the One Piece OP, the one with the circle.
That's where I'm thinking ska. It was One Piece that has
Yeah.
the ska opening.
And then obviously the The Dungeon Meshi
Dungeon
one.
Meshi. They did March Comes in Like a Lion's OP.
Ooh, which I haven't seen.
They've been around for a very long time,
Right.
Since the 90s.
Mhm.
They've been
I've
jamming out
definitely
and
heard
doing,
them. Yeah.
doing anime
Mhm.
OPs. If anybody's played the game, the Tales game on the PS2,
Legendia.
not Legendia, Abyss.
Oh,
Tales of the Abyss. They did the OP.
They did?
Tales of the Abyss.
wow! It's been so long since I played that game. Holy
Yeah,
cow!
that was a lot of people's first introduction to Bump of Chicken. If you come up from video game side of things,
Right.
very very iconic opening.
That rocks.
Good for them
Yeah, they're
to
awesome.
distinguish.
Like you can pick their vocalists like out of a lineup. Like it is, you immediately know you are in a Bump of Chicken song when you hear it.
Right.
It's really cool.
I
Right.
appreciate and love that
Yeah.
because that is very hard to do as an artist,
Yep.
a music artist.
Incredibly,
Mhm.
right? What else? I watched something else. What was it? Now I'm trying to think. I can't remember.
It's anime.
It is anime. It
He
is.
doesn't exactly watch live actions, to be fair.
I watch live action anime a lot.
Oh,
I have such a guilty pleasure for live action anime.
Oh, that's cool.
I really do. Like,
Oh,
but
you know what? You were talking about the
stage plays. Yep. So
Yeah.
that's in the same vein.
That tracks that.
Do you like the Death Note movie?
I like the idea of it a lot.
Me too.
It
I
was-
never watched it, but
It
when
was-
people told me the idea, I was like, oh,
Yeah,
that's
it's poorly executed, but there are moments throughout it that I'm like, I wish you leaned into this more,
Right.
or even I wish it was a series rather than a movie.
Are we talking
Right.
about the original one? There hasn't been another one that's come out, is there?
There's the English one.
Yeah.
The one on Netflix.
That's the classic one, right? That everyone talks about.
That was a live action movie before that.
Yeah,
That was
they actually did a
Japanese.
few,
Yeah.
but that was the first Western one. So they did like 2 Japanese live action movies like
Right.
a very long time
Oh, I
ago,
didn't know that.
and then they
I didn't know
did.
the one.
I think Korea has one as well.
Oh, I didn't know
They
that.
did one there as well, and then we got our Netflix adaptation.
Yeah.
And I've watched all of them. And they're all okay in their own ways.
I can't wait till Rob's tier list ranking of Death Note movies.
Of Death Note movies? Oh boy. We'll do that after you finish Death Note.
Oh yeah, as I'm working on that. Yeah,
You know.
absolutely.
But yeah, I can't remember the other.
Can't
thing I was
remember it. Okay.
watching. It left me. But yeah, that's kind of what I've been up to.
I like it.
Yeah.
I love that you're watching Dungeon Meshi.
Yeah.
We can cook some Dungeon Meshi inspired goodies.
Mm-hmm.
What about you, Jenny? Have you been consuming anything
I have.
adjacent
Other than food.
other than food?
Yeah. So Paul has, you know how I asked you guys like what's good current or recent animes that were dubbed well?
Mhm.
Yeah.
So we were exploring that a little bit. Paul has started watching One Piece in dubbed,
Okay.
and it's actually allowing me to watch it with him because I'll work and be able to like follow
Yeah.
along.
Mm.
We were hanging out yesterday and talking a lot about One Piece.
Mm-hmm.
There's so much. Renzo was there, right?
Okay.
Renzo's completely caught up.
Yeah.
Renzo is just like, there's so much I want to say, but you're not there yet. It's that type of situation.
Oh, yeah.
Because he just finished Alabasta, I think.
Paul actually just finished Skypiea.
Oh, finished Skypiea.
Oh.
Oh no, Water 7. Water 7.
Yeah, I was like, I know he
Water
finished that in the next one
Okay.
after that.
So they're about to head to like
like a lot of
so-
Nico's stuff.
Right.
Mm. Oh, that's the good stuff.
It is very good.
Oh, it's
Yeah.
good. Oh,
A lot. I see some. Yeah, it was super good. And it's been fun to actually kind of follow along that way. It makes me feel like I can fit anime in my life.
Right. Of course.
And then we actually introduced Phil to Delicious in Dungeon.
Mm-hmm.
Does he like it?
Yes. His girlfriend was actually the one. Ariel was the one who actually asked to watch it because she said she'd heard about it.
Mhm.
I think we were all hanging out. Oh yeah, it was for Mother's Day,
Mhm.
and we were all hanging out. And then I was like, I think we got some time and energy for to watch an anime if you guys are interested. And she's like, I've been wanting to watch this like Delicious in Dungeon one that I've heard so much about.
Right.
And she's watched some anime, but her stuff is like very old school, so
Right.
she hasn't watched a lot of new stuff. So this
Right.
one really was very fresh in
Mhm.
terms of like what it did and stuff for her. So she really loved it. She's like, I would like to make this a regular thing where we whenever we get together, like watch an episode or something.
Oh yeah.
That's cool.
Mhm.
I love that.
Yeah, and then Phil was like, cool, I get to do this with my girlfriend
Yeah.
and brother and sister-in-law.
Yeah.
Right.
I love a good anime night
Yeah.
amongst friends and family.
Yeah.
Me too.
Especially with ones who don't necessarily partake in it
Yep.
on a regular basis, you know.
Mhm.
So it's like they reserve this time for you,
Mm-hmm.
and it's such a nice thought.
Right.
So yeah, those are the two that I've watched in addition to Trigun.
Love that.
And yeah, I've been listening to. Actually, I had a really cool conversation with Mark at your birthday party. We
Okay.
kind of shared a lot of OPs and just actually Japanese music.
Man, Mark loves.
And we
OPs.
I talked with somebody, I think it might have been Ryan O'Neill, about music theory
Mhm.
when it comes to J-rock, J-pop, and
Mhm.
like how the formula is
Mhm.
different than Western music, which is why maybe I feel like it's such a fresh breath of air.
Yeah.
Listening to, I mean, I grew up with Western theory, right?
Right.
But listening to like Eastern theory, it's like, okay, they changed actually like half a note and a half a pace, half a beat. Their transitions are at different times than like Western music, so
Right.
it feels like you're listening to another world almost,
Mm-hmm.
which is such a cool thing to like think through. So I've been exploring a lot of that music because
Love that.
Mark and I had a lot of conversation about it. Dare's girlfriend Mary and I had a long conversation about music and dance too.
Love that.
So yeah, been kind of digging into a lot of art stuff, I guess, lately.
That's cool.
Mm,
Yeah.
That's really cool.
I love it. I love it. Okay.
Yeah.
Then I guess it's my turn to
It
talk
is your
about,
turn.
because I have done kind of a lot-ish.
Oh,
Obviously, watch more Death Note.
Mm-hmm. Where you at?
I'm not gonna do a spoiler alert because this anime is like 50
80
years old.
80
so
years
you,
old.
You know, you guys can grow up. Grow up.
yeah, it was released around the same time as Astro Boy.
What's it called? I'm at the part. So this was something that I have somehow like avoided the entire time and did not know this happened.
Oh.
Was the decision for Light and Misa to like forget the Shinigami.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, oh, you know what? Now it makes sense why this anime is like, it's not a long anime, but it's longer than like, where does this go from here? You know, like
Right.
type of energy. Like,
Yeah.
what is the story here, and how does it develop? And that development is fascinating.
Mhm. They make a lot of decisions that they can't take back.
right,
Mm-hmm.
and that makes the stakes high.
Mm-hmm.
I also can't help, like, now that they're in the state and Light is like helping Elle and Misa is there. I just watched Challengers. Have either of you heard? You've heard of? I'm sure you've heard of Challengers because I've been talking about it. Have you heard of Challengers? My friend was right. He was absolutely right. Shout out to Brandon, who has helped out with our podcast before. Challengers is an anime movie. So it is the latest film by, I don't want to say his last name because I feel like I'll butcher it, but Luca, he did Call Me By Your Name. He's an Italian filmmaker, but he leans more like American style filmmaking. He's like more in that realm. And this new film, it's the Zendaya threesome movie.
What?
Everything about the promotion of this movie is Zendaya and these two guys, and it's just like, okay, this is
That's how
supposed to be a tennis movie, but I guess
yeah, exactly.
Wait, what?
It's supposed to be a tennis movie. Yeah, so two little white boys is the way she describes them.
Mm-hmm.
And Zendaya, and they play tennis, and they both like her.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess it's a love triangle. But what if they also like each other? I don't know. There's a lot. It's definitely one of the sexiest movies I've ever seen.
Wow. Tennis.
But it is also it's also like incredibly anime. And so to circle back, it is, yes, very sports anime. Specifically, like the final scene is incredible. Like if you watch Haikyuu, you will drool at the final scene.
Oh,
it is
cool.
live action Haikyuu. It's crazy. It's so good. It like blows my mind. I was like, he's not doing this right now. This is like I'm watching it the entire time. I'm just like, oh my fucking god, it's live action anime. But from a narrative perspective, to see Elle be like, well, if you two go on dates, I'm coming too. I can't help but be like, this is just Challengers. It really is anime. Like, it only reinforced it more.
I was wondering where you was gonna tie this in.
Right, because that's kind of what's happening right now, right? Like, L, even though, like, he's, like, weirdly convinced that Light is kind of not the guy right now, he's still, like, he's still taking that precaution, you know? And it is a weird relationship. It's a very interesting relationship where, you know, L is like, you're my friend, you know? Like, and I cannot help but, yeah, feel similar energies to Challengers, where it's like, but he's plotting your downfall, and like that makes me sad because it does seem like you really like him.
That's so interesting. You just actually made me think of what if I were to try and tell somebody about watching Death Note. The energy that it has is very similar to the show Dexter.
Oh,
Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
The kind of what was it? Where you cross somebody? No, where you backstab them essentially, or you're essentially plotting against them, but you also have to act like their friend the whole time.
Right.
It's like, yeah, there's a lot of that, but unintentional, accidental, not that harmful betrayal, you know? And so if anyone had, you know, was interested in it, I would say Dexter would be something. If you liked that kind of a show, it's also very schemy.
Yeah, I love schemes.
Yeah, and you actually don't know why you're rooting for who you're rooting for a while.
Right. It's that gray area, which is very fun to watch. That's why people love Game of Thrones and you know, stuff like that.
Questionable bad guys or good guys.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. I'm sure we'll get into that topic a lot actually with Trigun.
I think so too.
What else? A little bit more of the wrong way to use healing magic. That's like that anime night type of steez where it's like, it really only happens when I'm playing Stardew Valley with Jess, and I get to listen to it dubbed, and it's just nice. What's it called? I completely watched in the time that we have had since the last podcast. Completely watched the 2 seasons of The Dangers in My Heart.
Oh,
this was inevitable because I had been hearing like all the hype
that is on my list
around that show, and it's incredible. I can see why it maintained. So it's like the only anime that on these like certain anime sites to have maintained the #1 spot for its entire run, which was season 2.
That's a big deal.
It's a big deal.
Did Oshinoko do that?
No, not even Oshinoko.
No.
Wow. Okay.
It was up there for most weeks. But
I remember it being
somewhere
high,
it
but I
fell.
didn't know if it was #1 or whatever.
And this one was surprising because it is going on. It was going on at the same time as Frieren and Apothecary Diaries.
Oh wow!
So like,
huge.
I was like, oh man, and I agree with our friend Suntenchi that like, I don't think it's. There might have been weeks where like Frieren or Apothecary Diaries was certainly higher on that episode, but there's no disagreeing that like the quality of it is a consistent high.
Yeah,
it's very 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 good.
That's fantastic.
And it is one of those anime that like I have looked at the like manga art, and I don't want to call it ugly, but it's not like my thing. And the anime is stunning. It's like they use a lot of like lens flares and like big exposition or like not exposition, exposed lighting.
Yeah.
And one of the coolest things they do is like, so there are chapters when you read the manga, right? And we know the chapter names, and these are the chapters of the episodes. But you wonder why it's like titled that. And so the show never drops the title at the beginning of the episode. The show will drop the title when it makes sense. And so like, there's like, one of my favorite episodes was...
I like that.
It Melted in My Hand. And I'm like, what the hell are you talking about? Like, you know, the episode starts, we go through like the drama of the episode, and then one of the like, and it's a small stupid slice of life conflict, but it's essentially like the main girl character loves to eat in the library. But then this like librarian puts up a notice. It's like, you're not supposed to be eating in the library. And so she goes there to eat at the library anyway, because she still wants to hang out with the boy, our lead boy character.
Right.
And the librarian is turning the corner as she's holding out this chocolate. And then all of a sudden the exposed lighting comes in. He notices the librarian coming, and he's slowly reaching out to her hand, like, because she's holding a chocolate out. And then the title intercuts in the editing. It says, "It." And then his hand is getting closer to her hand. They're about to touch hands. Melted. You know, the title card goes in melted. And then he's holding her hand, like full, yeah, because he doesn't want her to get caught. And it's a stupid, like, little high schooly thing, but it's cute as hell.
Yeah.
And the piano's going, the like emotional piano stuff. I'm like, this is like really the lowest stakes it could possibly be, but it's so sweet and it's like melting my heart, you know, like, and they're holding hands and stuff, and the librarian's like, what the heck? and then it shows you the full title card. It melted in my hand.
Yeah.
That seems like such a nod to silent films.
Yeah, it has that kind of like feeling. It definitely has that kind of feeling to dramatize like those moments in the course.
By cutting it up and breaking it up and building the suspense.
Exactly. And so it's like chock full of that, and like the kind of story of how these two fall in love, and they're wildly different people. So like, how does this even happen? You know? Mm-hmm. And it's really sweet. There's like a lot of steady character development. And I really love how they just change and how they kind of embrace a relationship with each other. Yeah, so if you like romance, I would highly recommend The Dangers in My Heart. Also, two of the best OPs I've ever seen. Love them. Both of them.
We've been talking highly on OPs lately.
Yeah.
Has there been any that have like recently like not done it for you? Can't think of like the right phrase that would be. Like just really, like, you're like, oh, skip.
This.
I mean, The Wrong Way to Use Healing Magic. I never mentioned. So like I can't even remember it.
Oh, okay.
I mean, I watch it every time.
I haven't had one that I was like, I'll skip.
Yeah.
No, the ones I've been watching lately have been pretty bangers. So.
Yeah, exactly. People know what they're doing, you know?
That's great to see or hear,
Yeah,
you know, because
yeah.
like skipping the intro is kind of sad sometimes when you're trying just to fit it in for time. But it's like, but you love it. But to have an OP that you love so much, you're like, I'm gonna play this through.
I'm gonna sit through this.
Yeah,
you know?
It's worth the extra, like, well, actually, OPs are really long in anime. I thought about it, like, relative.
it adds up.
Yeah, relative to...
Oh, yeah, you'll watch a full episode of OPs.
Yeah.
Within a couple episodes. Yeah, within a couple episodes.
They are long. Like, it's the whole song. It's not just like, you know, like the Friends opening where it's just like one verse and a chorus. No, it's the whole song. You guys are getting a music video.
Exactly.
That's exactly.
We're trapped here for at least 2 minutes.
Yeah.
Possibly more depending.
Yeah.
Right.
But it's like they have to try hard to make it good, you know? Like,
they're a big deal. They're a big selling point. I mean, I started watching Mashal because of that second OP.
Dude, that's the same.
Yeah.
There was one of my soldiers actually was the one who said, "Ma'am, have you heard this song yet?" And I was like, "What are you talking about?" And he just starts playing it immediately, and I'm like, "What is this? This is awesome." I have never heard an OP like this before.
It's so wild.
And then I was like, what is this anime? And I guess, honestly, the music was a little better than how the anime went for me. But
but still, it got you in there.
Still got a great song, though.
Yeah.
I still play that song regularly.
Oh, yeah.
I'm probably going to finish Mashal, catching up to it. But yeah, I also agree, I haven't been blown away by it. But I do, it's fun.
It's got its moments, you know, but the song...
But that song, P.
Actually, the whole soundtrack for Mashal, like if you hear what's playing in the background.
It's a wild soundtrack.
It is.
I was like, what an insane decision.
Yeah, it's like when he has his badass moment, it's not rock music, it's rap.
Yeah, it's rap. I'm like, whoa, dude.
Cool.
That's
so different.
It's super different. It's super different, but it works. It weirdly works.
Yeah.
That reminds me, there's a show called K. It's just the letter K.
I've heard of this.
You heard of it? Okay, I'll tell you, it's not an amazing show.
Okay,
right? But
it's K.
It's K.
Wow.
Like I have a strange love for it, but I would not really recommend it to anybody.
Sure.
But I will say, one, it has killer visuals, but also the soundtrack goes insanely hard for like seemingly no reason.
Right.
And the action scenes in there, as you said, it's not like a rock or anything that you would normally find, but they start playing like kind of a classical music sound to a lot of their stuff.
Fun.
And it's just like, it enhances like what you're looking at like tenfold. I'm like, oh, this is so unique than everything else that is out there.
Right.
And that just reminded me of that. Just like, yo, that shit was so good.
I think Cowboy Bebop was one of the ones that also stood out for me that does that really well, where they change the genre to fit the mood of the moment. And it's not a consistent. I mean, Cowboy Bebop. It doesn't mean it only plays Western type of music. I mean, the opening is jazz,
Right.
Yeah,
first of all, but that actually fits really well with the world that they have.
Right.
And then there's also very sad moments with just no sound and like a sound vacuum and classical music. You know?
Yeah.
And it works well because space, first of all.
Right.
So that sound vacuum just like kind of, it almost like it sucks the air out of your watching experience, and you're even holding your breath too watching the moment. But then there's like sweet classical music, like, but calm down. It's not gonna be good, but calm down.
right.
I mean, that anime is famous for like having episodes that were made because the director heard a song
Yes.
and was like, "Oh, let's make an entire episode around that song." And the composer's like, "Okay."
Sure.
Yeah. and I'm just like, what? That's crazy. Like, there's so that director and that like creative team is so musically driven. Like Samurai Champloo and what's the other one?
Kids on the Slope.
Kids on the Slope is another one. I've never watched it.
Yeah,
that one's also really great.
The one I'm thinking of is Carol and Tuesday.
Carol and Tuesday.
Right.
Okay.
I didn't
yes.
know
Yes.
that was-
yes.
The same guy.
I didn't know that.
Wild, right?
I remember it being a music one.
Yeah.
But
You could see it. Like, you could definitely see it.
I'm curious. Because I've heard a lot about that one, and
Mhm.
I put down Bochi. So I think I'm due for another music one that I'd like to get into.
It's funny they mentioned that because I actually started a music one today.
Ooh.
I started and the first episode impressed me a lot, so I'm very excited to continue it. It's an anime from this season.
Oh.
It's called Jellyfish Can't Swim at Night.
That's the other one I've been watching.
Let's go!
I'm all caught up. I was like, I just watched the latest episode this morning. Why can I not remember the title?
Is it good? Do you like it?
I love it.
Does that title make sense too?
It does.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Because sometimes these titles
Right
are
from the
like-
first episode, you understand why it's called that.
Okay. Interesting.
And pretty blown away by that first episode.
Yeah.
Yeah, big
It's
fan.
really, really strong start. And it's consistently like every episode gets better in my
cool.
opinion.
Damn.
They start introducing more characters, and like every character they introduce is fantastic.
Yeah.
It is this because our main character it's like an idol show.
It is.
in a lot of ways.
Yeah,
right?
in a lot of ways,
because
yeah.
it's like we're forming like an idol group.
Yeah.
Right. But our main character is an artist. And she made this giant like jellyfish mural, right?
Yeah.
That she was like very, very proud of. In her,
It's gorgeous.
It's gorgeous. It's amazing. Jellyfish is her favorite like creature and whatnot. So she did this beautiful mural, and her friends basically like reject it, as it were, right?
Reject it.
And this,
Yeah, it's sad. I think a lot of people can it's natural growing up.
yeah, like they're
happens.
kids, right?
I think
And-
it happens.
but like that was a very traumatic incident for her,
Yeah.
and that led her to like she does not want to draw anymore.
Right.
Like she is just like she has this impression that like being an artist, like her drawings are weird and like this is not what normal people do. Like I just need to be a normal person. I'm not going to draw anymore.
Oh.
Right.
Yeah, it's sad.
That's very sad.
It's very sad.
We're creators, and so to hear that, like somebody go through that where they don't want to create anymore because
Right.
some like early on someone put down your work.
Right.
It's like I agree with like constructive criticism.
Absolutely.
But to say like, oh, this is not good, you know,
Right.
like ow.
That just hurts, right?
It stays with
She
you.
was
forever.
excited to share it with them.
She
too.
was so
Oh,
excited
no.
for it, right?
That was like probably like one of the first episodes.
yeah, it's in episode 1.
This is episode
Oh.
1.
This is episode
all
1.
because I've only seen that
gosh.
episode.
Yeah,
Yeah.
This is episode 1.
Yeah.
And during one night where she's out and about, there's like this stage, this person that is like putting on a street concert basically, right? In front of her mural, but like they put like their posters all over it and whatnot.
Yeah.
And like she's very shy, right? She's not outspoken. She wants to say something, but she can't.
Yeah.
And this other person that is over here is just like, hey,
Yeah.
like, take that shit down. Like, that is my favorite piece ever. Like, she goes off on this person, right?
Yeah. She's like, I love that mural.
She's like, I love that mural. That means so much to me,
yeah.
right? And our main character is just like taken aback by it, right? And eventually these two meet up. And this stranger tells her like, no, like that piece means so much to me that like I like my music career that I'm doing now is because of that piece.
Right.
My new stage name right now is Jelly.
Yeah.
Because jellyfish, because of your mural, like everything about my current situation is because of you. You led me here.
It changed it.
Thank you.
Oh.
Right. And like she asks her, like, will you be the artist for like all the stuff that I do? right? And it's this is very sweet moment, but also like our MC is also like she's still kind of going through. She can't like process it well, right?
Yeah.
She doesn't quite believe
You
it.
don't believe it.
She doesn't believe it, right? So there's a little bit of a back and forth, but eventually, like she does come on, and these two become like
It's an
friends,
amazing
and
end to that
she starts
episode.
drawing for her. It's an amazing first episode,
Yeah,
and
it's amazing.
as they start introducing more characters to bring on
Yeah.
onto this team, right?
Yeah.
It's just like you get different aspects of like this idol, like almost kind of like how Oshinoko like shows different sides of like the industry, right?
Right.
There's like different characters that sort of like represent different sides of this industry. So like you have a character that is like the fan of this one girl's previous life, right? And it's one of those obsessive fans,
Oh.
right? Like
Oh,
in kind of in it's an unhealthy way,
Yeah.
right? But also like she found a lot of like purpose in her life because of this idol,
Right.
right?
Mhm.
And then it's like, well, she's no longer going under the stage name. She's like recreated herself, and this fan cannot accept that. Right, and there's a whole arc. And there's a whole arc around that, and it's really good.
Oh!
It's really good.
I hate that you're telling me this because like after I finished that one episode, it was like literally like kind of like I want to say about 30 minutes before I headed out here. So I was like, oh, we can't do this. This is a rabbit hole.
Oh,
and
boy.
So like I had to stop there and just be like, let's get ready to go. You know,
You're in for it, bro.
But I have a feeling I'm
So
going
you're
to
gonna go
love
home,
it.
watch Delicious and Nugget,
Yep.
and you're gonna go home and watch Jellyfish Can't Swim.
That's
Probably
it.
for that. Probably. It was recommended by Suntenshi again. Because I was like asking him, I was like, "Are you watching like all the heavy hitters this season?" Because he watches like everything because this is kind of a part of his job.
Mm-hmm.
And like I was asking him, I was like, "So like what's like number one?" And that's how I ended up watching Oshinoko. And he was like, "I think." Easily number one is Jellyfish Can't Swim at Night. For me. And I was like, oh, okay, that's all I need to hear. He didn't tell me anything.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know what it was about going into it today. And put it on, and then it was just like, all right, what's this about? Went through the episode and just was like.
I remember there was a time in your Discord where like y'all was talking about anime or something like that. And low key, he was like, yeah, I think Jellyfish is probably like, it's on track for being like one of the best anime probably of the year.
Yeah.
Like, depending on where it goes. Because this is also an original.
Right.
So that we don't know where it's going to go. We don't know if it's going to stick the landing and whatnot. But it's like, if this sticks the landing, like I could see this being like one of the biggest shows of this year.
Right.
And like immediately I'm like, yes, like I agree with you on this. And that was like 3 or 4 episodes in at the time. And every episode has lived up to the previous.
Yeah.
It's getting into some pretty interesting stuff.
I'm so excited.
It's good. It's good.
And then I got Insert the Token.
100 Girlfriends.
Yeah, I've been reading 100 Girlfriends. Yeah, kind of good.
How many girlfriends are we at now, Asher?
24?
Ooh,
I've gotten to
Almost a fourth of the way there.
almost.
Yeah, 24. I've met the songstress girlfriend. She's hilarious.
Oh.
So she is like really giga talented. She's an actual like pretty much an idol. She is famous. So this is arguably the most famous character that Rentaro has as a girlfriend. But her entire what's fun about the series is that like while these girls are typically like this like brand of girlfriend, they usually have some sort of wacky flaw to them that they lean into super hard. Her entire steez will be like she's like, yeah, I put sugar in my like or no, yeah, I put salt in my coffee, and he'll be like, why? And then she's like doing a smug little smile. She's like, yeah, and then and then he's like, why? And then you find out like her entire steez is that like when she was a kid, she watched the music video by Kenshi Yonezu.
Oh, hell yeah. I love Kenshi Yonezu.
Wait, the guy who makes yeah, I know what you're talking about. He made a kickback. Like, and also
one of
OP for a few My Hero.
Right. He so in this
hugely diverse sound.
Oh yeah.
Right.
Oh my god.
Right. Incredibly talented. Which makes sense
one
why
of my
this character-
favorite.
So talented.
Me too.
Yeah.
Holy cow.
Love Kenshi.
And so you
my God.
see how she could end up very talented if that's her primary source of inspiration. But she was also incredibly attracted to like his weirdness. And in this like
He is
music
weird.
video, he was like wearing high heels, and she was like, she was like 8 or whatever. And she was like, this is wild. He's such an artist. I have to become eccentric like him. And so she explains to Rentaro, she's so bummed out that she's viewed as this like straight-laced prodigy, but she wants to be weird. And so and he's like, that doesn't seem weird. That just seems like inefficient, like, or like wrong, you know, like it's just, or you seem inept. Like, you don't seem like you're weird. You seem like you're like, you just don't understand how this works. And that's why she like gets that stupid, like, almost like Anya, like smug. She's like, am I weird? You know, like, am I being a weirdo? And like her entire thing, like, Rentaro hasn't even asked her out yet at this point. And she's like, and that's why I can't go out with you. And he's like, I didn't even ask you out yet. Although I will. And then, and then she's like, because you're not weird. You're normal. And then, you know, he's like, I have 23 girlfriends. And she's like, that's not normal at all. and then she goes to like meet them. And then she's like, well, I probably can't do this because you all seem like normal girls.
Oh no.
And we go through the end. Oh my God, it's a riot of just this person reacting to like, excuse me, that's not normal. Excuse me, like everyone's normal reaction to all these girls, like having a character like at this point in the game be like, wow, all right, you know what I mean. It's so funny.
So I think that's such a funny topic, and that is one thing I have appreciated about you talking about 100 Girlfriends, because I haven't watched it at all. But what it's able to talk about in these because of these situations, the scenarios that it creates, and that's a funny conversation about the eccentricity of a true artist or whatever.
Right.
When they say, "Oh yeah, you have to be quirky, you have to be weird," but you can't be like pretend weird. You actually have to be weird.
Yeah.
And then it's like, oh, that comes with a lot of like mental stuff. So you know,
yeah, right.
I don't know if we want to go there.
Right.
But it's actually what makes me really appreciate like something like The Room, because you can't make something like that by trying to be weird. You have to genuinely be unorthodox to create something like that. And so same thing with like Kenshi has to genuinely be multifaceted to be able to create the diversity in his sound that he does.
Right.
You can't fake that. You can't be extremely talented like Mozart and and create those just because you're technically good, you know, that there's a huge difference. And so it is kind of funny how you can get also like, what is the word? Like shoeboxed or into like, this is what you're supposed to do. This is how you're always going to be.
Yes.
And it sounds like that's what kind of happened with her.
Yeah.
And then she wants to be like the Lady Gaga.
Yeah,
but
correct.
She didn't sign that contract.
right. Exactly.
And I know that was a conversation actually of like Lady Gaga and Lana Del Rey, I think, came out around the same time.
They did, yeah.
And they were considered competitors, but they also have completely different.
They're super different.
Yeah. Their vocal range is the same, but it's like they had to kind of.
I like both of them.
They had to create their different paths and their looks, you know. Though I did hear a lot that Lady Gaga's was completely contrived, made by others around her, essentially.
I could see that.
So, you know, but
she owns it.
She looked great in it. She has a very like sharp, interesting, unique look. So it worked well for her. I don't think Lana would have been able to pull off something like that.
Right.
So it really does come down to like you have to genuinely be that way. So for her to try to pretend, not even pretend, like try to be weird.
But it's really funny because it's obvious too, right? Like it's super obvious too. It's like, no, I don't find you weird. I just think you're stupid. Like some characters are like that.
That's how I feel about Jared Leto when he tried to act as Joker.
The Joker.
Oh, yes. Interesting.
He did like people talk. They tried to like publicize this, you know, happening that they were going to come out with the Suicide Squad and everything like that.
I remember that.
And Jared Leto being the Joker, and you know he has that like one clip that never made it to the movies. In the trailers, though, he's like, "I'm gonna hurt you real bad."
That wasn't in the movie?
No.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I'm not gonna.
Pretty bad movie.
It was bad.
Oh wow.
But they publicized it by saying like, yeah, Jared Leto's like really doing a lot of method acting. He's
he like sent over like a pig like a dead pig to Will Smith.
Oh my god.
He was
Yeah.
upset. He was like, cut that shit out.
He was like
Jesus.
leaving them used tampons in their rooms,
So
dressing rooms and
stupid.
stuff.
Oh,
But it was like
doing dumb
that-
shit.
That's
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
dumb. It's
It's-
literally
Yeah,
nothing
yeah.
in character.
Right.
Like Joker. You never read a single Batman comic
Yeah.
at this point. You have there's no method acting here because there's no method or acting. You're just weird.
Yeah, it's just weird.
It's just pretend. Yeah. So that's where I'm like, ah.
Yeah. So you can't help but feel that way, but it's I quite like her. So yeah. I think that about rounds it. I did a lot. I did a lot in this time. Can't wait to go home and watch Jellyfish Can't Swim at night.
Yeah.
So yeah, with that, let's take a break so that camera lad can rest. And we
Camera Kun.
Shout out to Camera Kun.
Shout out to Camera Kun, and then we'll get to the subject at hand. Trigun Stampede.
Let's go.
All right, y'all. What's up, really quick? I'm just here to talk about the upcoming Charity Clash, which, if you follow me on stream, you know about those. If you're a more recent follower, I guess you don't. Essentially, it is a kind of competition in a game where a number of the players fight for a particular charity, and whoever wins, the loser has to donate to their charity. So this upcoming one will be Dead by Daylight, and I don't have like graphics and that stuff yet, but I want to talk about it. All 3 members of the JSB cast are going to be in it, and it's going to be July 6th. That's locked in. We don't have a time yet, but I just want you guys to have the heads up. Slowly kind of inching it in there, making sure that people know, and it's, I don't know, it's just a really cool thing. I'm very excited to get back to that. It always feels like I'm playing for something, but also not everyone is exactly the best at the game, so it's usually fun and silly. But that's not to say we'll have people without skill, like my homie Zach. I'm really excited to have him on for this one because he's a very good killer. He's a very good survivor. Hit rank 1 in both. So I don't know. It's gonna have a mix of everything, is what I'm trying to say. And y'all should definitely check it out. So mark your calendars, July 6th. Get ready, the next Charity Clash. Okay, back to the podcast.
We will know, folks.
Sound syncing. So yeah, we're gonna start with the standard because I know there's like so much we probably want to talk about. But we gotta start with a standard.
Yeah.
But I will say there's a little twist on the standard question because this is maybe the.
I wasn't ready for a twist. Were you ready for a twist?
I was not ready for a twist.
Because this is, if I'm not mistaken, correct me if I'm wrong.
You're wrong.
Ooh.
The first anime that is a remake or a retelling. So, why did you pick Trigun Stampede and not the original?
You
Damn.
weren't ready for the twist.
I was not ready for the twist. Damn, I got fucking shot. Honestly, because I think Stampede is a better product to show to people.
Hell yeah.
I'm not gonna really sugarcoat it.
Yeah. Lots of people have opinions.
I love the original Trigun.
This is internet opinions.
It was like pretty important to me growing up and watching anime.
Yeah,
it
it
was
is.
on the Adult Swim lineup, right? So like along
it's
with
important
like
to a lot of people.
Yu Yu Hakusho and all that other stuff there, Trigun aired right alongside of that stuff.
Oh, was it? I didn't know that.
Mm-hmm.
And I would wake up in the middle of the night and I was just like, Ash the Stampede, what is this? And just get like sucked into every episode, right? Watching it later in life is like, you start to notice like, okay, it is a much slower paced show.
Right.
Right. Like it takes a little while for things to get going.
Right.
Like,
Which isn't always bad.
it's not always bad, right? But
Nope.
but if you're really wanting to get into like the meat of it, like know that you're not going to get there for a little while.
Right.
Right. Like every episode is like its own sort of little story that focuses on like whatever town that Vash went into next. Right. And then we're telling the story about like how this town is surviving in this world. And then you get little pieces of like who Vash is and his morals and stuff like that.
Right.
And sprinkled in every so often, you'll get like a tiny piece of like a flashback of like Rem. And you're like, oh, who's that?
Yeah.
And you start realizing there's more to this guy than just being a humanoid typhoon.
Right.
Right? Like, there's clearly more here. And you start wanting more of that, but the show is like slow about giving that to you.
Yeah. I mean, we've had this discussion before.
Yeah.
I have tried to watch the original. I didn't watch it until much later in my life because I was out of America during the Adult Swim lineup stuff. And Phil swears by that anime. It's one of Phil's favorite animes of all time. And I think it's a lot of people's favorite anime of all time.
Original Trigun?
Right.
Oh, okay.
It's a personal favorite of mine too. It's up there.
And he the way when Phil turns me on to anime, I expect some pretty mind blowing stuff. Right? Like at this point of our friendship, I had watched Madoka recommended by him. Blew my mind. You know, like I take his opinions to heart. And so I don't doubt that the original anime is like great. But I got 10 episodes in and I was like, this is not mind blowing.
It's not doing it.
It's not doing it.
Right.
Like, where is it? Where's the sauce? You know, like, and I will get into that, why I think Stampede is so much better.
Yeah.
And part of it is that the sauce is there.
For sure.
I didn't need to ask for it.
For sure. And I would even hesitate to say like...
Sauce, please?
I would even hesitate to describe it as like, the original is like mind-blowing. Right? I think even that is like setting it up maybe too far. Right, in a lot of ways. And then also I think about like, that anime aired in 1998.
Yeah.
Right? So like when you're coming to it after having your mind blown by like Madoka and some of this other stuff, it's like when someone tells you this is mind blowing, it's like there's an expectation there, and it's like that's not quite what Trigun is. Go for it.
Do you think, or how do you feel about the potential that the age that you were at when you watched Trigun impacting your feelings towards Trigun, original Trigun?
Oh, it can play a huge factor in that too. Yeah, absolutely.
That could play a huge factor in it. The fact that we didn't have that much anime.
Yeah, at the time too. There's many different factors that can go into like, maybe it wasn't good. it just like, and just for me, it just hit us at a certain time and place, right?
I'll definitely revisit things that I loved when I was younger and watch it again. I was like, ooh.
And I actually did revisit and watch through Trigun after I watched Stampede.
Is it still great?
In my opinion, it is. Yeah. I still think it is. Yeah. And what's cool is like, because I watched it when I suggested Stampede to you guys. Right. I also reached out to my buddy Drew, who I constantly watch anime with and introduce things to him. Right. And I'm like, hey, come watch Stampede with me. And he's like, all right. And he really loved it. And he was someone else that also bounced off the original. Right. So I told him, I was like, well, what I'm planning to do before our next recording is like, I want to go back and watch the original too and see how I feel about it. Right. Would you be interested in watching it with me, knowing that you bounced off? And it's like, now that I kind of know what I'm getting into, like, yeah, let's do that. Right. And it turned out he really enjoyed it the second time he watched it. Yeah. Like after watching Stampede, he went back and watched it.
So I'm curious about that in me if I were to do it.
It might.
It might.
Right. He wasn't so caught off guard by like what it's trying to do and things like that. He was just like able to just like watch it and take it in. And he was just like every episode, he's like, I'm really enjoying this a lot more than the first time that I watched this.
Question. Does it feel like you get an expanded version of, because I heard it's like 24 episodes for the original?
It's 20, 20.
It's like double the Stampede. And so does it feel like an expanded version of Stampede? Or no?
Some ways. Okay. It's expanded in some ways in that like you see more you get more sides of Vash and you get more sides of Wolfwood. Okay. Right? Like you get to sit with these characters a lot longer. You get to see them go through different emotions that you don't really get in Stampede.
I will say that is probably one thing we can talk about at some point is that I did feel Stampede was a little bit rushed.
Yeah.
Interesting.
That's why I'm curious if
it's delicate balance, because I've explained to you that one of my appreciations for Stampede is that whatever it was that people were probably talking about, it is from frame one.
Introduced.
It is a frame one. This is the problem.
As soon as Trigun Stampede starts, we're in the spaceship. Shit is going crazy. That stuff in the original, you don't get that until episode 18.
That's wild to me.
See, and that's where it makes sense, where it's like,
Yeah.
okay, you dropped off at 10, you know?
Yeah.
And there's been a lot of animes that I would struggle with because they don't. When we watched Charlotte, I think that was only episode 6 is when it really starts to change
Right.
tone.
Mhm.
But you have to tell somebody
Right.
it's episode 6.
You're
and I kind
comparing
of
them.
hate having to do that because it's like, was it all just nonsensical at this point?
Yeah.
But the problem is because it feels like filler, but it's not.
But it's not.
You feel like you're gonna miss, or the audience will miss a lot of stuff that
Mhm.
happens. So you have to do a rewatch, but most will
Right.
not.
Mm-hmm.
You have to do the exposition introductions. You
Mhm.
have you
Yeah.
or that's what a lot of people feel you have to do.
Mm.
That's why Trigun Stampede was here to prove them wrong.
It,
and like that's what I explained this to you before. I was raised on that.
right.
At least when I went to university. There and no opinion is like the opinion. But my teacher certainly was like, you should just get into the action.
Mhm.
We've seen thousands of stories where the main character wakes up, does his morning routine. It's not going to end your story. It's not going to make people stop, I guess, but it's boring. And I'm like, this sentence effectively changed me.
Right.
You know, like just a simple teaching moment from a
Right.
teacher who I incredibly appreciate.
Yeah.
Shout out to Marion Karate. Read her book. It's on Amazon. And she like, you know, I watched Stampede and I'm like, oh my gosh, we are in the sauce right from the get-go.
Yeah.
And I would argue that like the story of Trigun is not, it's not like what the original Trigun is doing in those like first 17 episodes
Mhm.
is not what Trigun is about.
Mm.
And I think that's its biggest problem.
Mm.
Whereas Trigun, at the end of episode 1, we know it is about, it's actually not about like good versus evil,
Right.
right and wrong, but rather the value of humanity
Mm-hmm.
and two brothers who disagree on that value.
Mm-hmm.
And that is giga apparent episode 1.
Yeah.
By the end of that episode, it is these two, that is the conflict. And that
Right.
is the heart of Trigun.
Mm-hmm.
And the fact that it takes 18 episodes is wild to me. In the original anime.
Right.
In the original anime.
Right.
But also there's probably a brilliance, why it's like so timeless, in like how it feeds you that slowly.
It's. I mean, and then it's also like, is that something that you would want as you like Asher? Is that
Right.
something that you get into, right?
Right.
And maybe that's not, right? So
Right.
like for me, like I don't mind stuff that's like that,
Right.
right? Because every episode, I get something out of every episode that I watch out of Trigun,
Right.
right? Even though like the stuff doesn't happen till later, I still episode 1, it's like, okay, I get this story with these characters in this setting, and I
Yeah.
appreciate that, and then I get some bits of Dash, and then next episode I get this story like that.
Right.
I get some value out of that,
Yeah.
right? And then when we do get to the stuff, I am way into it,
Yeah.
having like this long relationship with Dash. Like that is something that I don't mind, but that is not for everybody,
No.
and I get that.
Yeah.
So like Stampede, in the brilliance of Stampede, as you say, is like we put this stuff up front.
Mhm.
Like the people that bounced off of this originally, like this is what you're here for, and I think that is awesome.
Yeah.
That shit is great.
Yeah.
I love both of these series, but I think Stampede is the one where like I will just introduce that to people,
Right.
Because I
Yeah.
think the hook is right there. I don't need to set anything up for you. I don't need to be like, okay, well, you know, you need.
So
to
there's this guy who like,
Yeah, right.
Right.
You know,
pretty cool.
You don't get to set anything
I
up
don't
for
need to
it,
set
yeah.
anything up. It's just like hit play, go. You're in it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
And
absolutely.
It's awesome.
Yeah.
That shit is great.
And
so.
and I'm the type of person who also believes like both in film or like any visual medium that I have consumed, we have gotten better. Like one one could like argue about like, oh, this era of cinema was the 70s and it's the greatest era of cinema. Which I love films from the 70s. The 70s rules.
Right.
But from a technique standpoint,
Yeah.
all of our masters of today are learning from those masters. And so technique, I think we are getting better at
Mhm.
telling stories and
Mhm.
utilizing technology. There's so much we can learn from history.
Absolutely.
We should study history and we should watch them because they also still bang,
Yeah.
you know? But it's also like, I'm not going to tell you that like we are not getting better.
Right.
Yeah.
Anime has gotten better. That's
Absolutely.
why that's why there's also just so much trash. Because like
They learned the isekai formula. They're like, hold on, guys, this is pretty straightforward storytelling here, and we can make it's easy. Just throw them in another world, okay?
Easy money.
Explain nothing.
The amount of bad is actually like a sign of like getting better because of like more people trying their hand at it and failing. But like the steps that we're taking along the way and tripping over to do. And I can't help but like, from a personal standpoint, that I watched Trigun Stampede and I'm like, wow, this is a improvement on the original, in my opinion.
That's a pretty rare sentiment, honestly.
Yeah.
Where a remake is successful in the eyes of the viewer.
Well, I think that's what's kind of amazing because I think a lot of them are doing it. Like, I think New Fruits Basket is considered better.
Yeah, we've had a string of like good remakes.
Yeah, someone was, I think Ashley was telling me that Oron's coming out with another season.
Really?
What?
Yeah. We were just joking about that too. I was like,
wait, really?
yeah.
I haven't heard this.
Well, that's your sister. I don't know.
All right, I'll have to look.
She and I were chatting because she saw my hoodie that I was wearing at your birthday party was the Oron one.
I would have to, I gotta see this because I would be surprised if I missed this news.
That's cool.
Because I know Wolf and Spice.
Yep, Spice and Wolf.
Or Spice and Wolf.
Yeah, that remake is really good so far.
Spice of Wolf.
So far, Spice and Wolf. Yeah, so I don't know how that stacks, right?
So far, still strong.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
What else? I'm trying to think of like other Hunter x Hunter. I think is held to high regard. That one was also a remake.
Berserk just got announced of like a
oh yeah,
thing.
I hope that's good because that 3D one was bad.
Yeah. From the trailer, it looks awesome.
Yeah,
I'm not gonna lie.
Exactly.
So, like we're on a pretty good trend right now.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So this one's a grenade that I'm going to throw out there. I'm of the opinion that the EVA movies are the superior form of the story. Along with intent. Hideaki Anno has, explained that technology has finally caught up and this is the exact story that I want to tell.
What are you talking about?
EVA, Evangelion.
There's a new...
No, it's not.
The movies.
The movies.
The movies are like a retelling of the original.
Oh, they're movies?
Yeah.
Oh. I heard Evo, so I was like, oh.
No, EVA.
EVA.
And I think those are peak. That's gonna generate. Everyone has opinions about EVA.
Yes.
So that's how I feel about Stampede. I put Stampede in like that category. Granted, maybe I should watch the original again. We'll see how I feel. I got my brain cells cooking.
If you do, let me know because you're gonna be the only way I will watch the original.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've been saying I've been wanting to watch things with you guys too. When it comes to some of the ones that you're like, maybe Jenny will not like this.
Yeah.
I would prefer to watch those with you guys because I like to discuss them. Like, okay, why?
Yeah.
Why are we
watch
doing
the
this?
first episode of the anime that I'm picking next?
Okay. All right, let's do it.
Yeah.
Because I also will not have watched it. So
yeah, I would like to do that, honestly. If we can make that a thing where we actually watch the first episodes of like some animes together, I think that would help my watching experience exponentially. Because sometimes I feel like I'm coming from a very different perspective from you guys.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
And I feel kind of isolated. Like, I don't get references. I'm lost on like certain like tropes. References and tropes are actually two of the big things. Archetypes.
Right.
They're just like foreign to me, which sounds weird to say, but it is foreign to me, right?
Yeah, fair enough.
So, when we
absolutely,
I
would love to watch this new one with all of you.
Takami Galaxy. That would have been a great one to watch with you guys because I would have lost my fucking mind on you, Asher.
Me watching it, and then my sister's sitting there on the couch on her phone, like, yeah, sure, I'll watch it, and then it just takes off, and she's like, oh my god, puts down her phone and is like, I can't do anything else or else like I'm not gonna be able to pay attention. Like this guy is talking at 100 miles per hour.
See, I'm the type to really hone into and I was frustrated. Because I don't want I put my phone on do not disturb mode, like military. Good luck.
Me, I'm like Jack Nicholson in Anger Management. I'm like,
oh my god.
Nope.
Yes.
Yes.
Nope. Perfection. Yeah. So that's okay. So I like that. I like your reasoning for why you chose Stampede over the original, and I think I like wholly agree with that. You've never tried to watch the original, have you, Jenny?
No, so I did actually try and watch Trigun Stampede before we had this cast.
Really?
Yeah,
Okay.
I got to episode 1. I watched all episode 1. I loved it,
Yeah.
but I felt heaviness coming.
Oh, yeah.
And I was like, I don't need heaviness. And I loved the characters. So I was like, whatever heaviness they go through, I need to be ready for this.
Right.
And that made me put it down.
Oh, yeah. Sometimes it's a time and place thing. Like, you see what it is, you're like, I'm not in the space for this right now. I will revisit you later.
Yes.
Yes.
And so I was very excited when you said this is what we're going to watch. And I told Paul, I was like, hey, we have to pick up Stampede again. Let's do it. I'm excited. And
Which original Trigun, you don't have to. It's not emotional to start. It's slapstick. Yeah.
And which is actually something almost that made me put down Steven Universe and Avatar originally. So it's other things that encourage me to continue watching those, because when it starts with that lightheartedness that just feels like falsified lightheartedness, it makes me kind of go, are you putting on a facade? I don't care for that.
Right.
Be honest with me up front. Let's go.
Right.
And I think that's just my personality too. But I did put down Stampede, was excited to pick it back up, and then was very happy with the journey. One thing that we changed from our first watch to what we ended up doing, we watched it in dub for the full watch through.
I hear it's a very good dub.
I thought it was better than Japanese.
Oh, Johnny Young Bosch reprised his role.
He did.
Did Meryl Streep reprise her role?
No, I think Johnny Young Bosch was the only one that did it.
Okay.
So Vash was the only returning voice
was
for,
the only
Okay, cool.
for it.
The
Very cool dub. Like,
the dub
I
was
like both.
fantastic.
I love that. I'd rewatch it again dubbed. Well, now that I'm at that point, my sister is one of those long-time like Trigun fans, and so I'm like, oh, well, now I need you to finish it. Now that I finished
Hold
it,
on, did I say that right?
let's
Sorry,
rewatch.
swap. Subbed. We watched it subbed.
Okay.
Oh.
We watched it originally dubbed, and the Japanese was way better. Sorry, all the way around. Sorry.
Okay,
Those
okay.
words are so close together.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I think people do like the English dub though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We watched it because it was probably one of those times where I'm like super swamped with work. So I'm like, and I don't do other things while I'm watching anime. But this one, I was like, I need to like melt, so I can't just sit here reading a whole bunch.
Right.
But I do remember like the animation with the voices too. It was like it fit really, really well. Vash too, fantastic, and that's important
Yes.
because he's a very difficult character, I think, to voice act.
He has the widest range of emotion.
He's all over the place.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, he's a typhoon. Human typhoon.
Literally, yes.
Like, how do you voice a typhoon? Right? All right, go.
Right.
You are Typhoon. Go.
Right.
You sound like Tasmanian devil or something, but coherent.
Ooh.
Yeah, how would he sound as like an actual coherent character?
Right.
How do you translate them?
Oh my god.
I almost wonder if, like, to a point, Vash is like the epitome of like someone with ADHD, like
In some ways.
You know what? Yeah, in some ways, I wouldn't be surprised.
because he like changes his mindset and mood and his focus, and it's like that actually might be the embodiment of a character with ADHD in an anime.
Yeah, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
But yes, I will say that was one difference in our original watching. The next one, we put down the English dubbed and then really loved the Japanese. Whereas with Oran, it was the opposite.
Right.
We
You liked
put
the English
down, Paul hated the Japanese subbed, and then I had him watch the dub with me because that's what I watched.
Most people watch that, yeah.
I mean, fantastic. Every character in there was dubbed very well. So, I would say this one was better in the Japanese.
That's cool.
That's awesome.
Great time.
All right, let's get into the meat of it. Yeah. So,
Where do you want to go?
oh man, there's so many places you can go here. Because it is one of those shows that is very heavy-handed with its illusions.
Yes.
Which isn't a bad thing. I hate it when people like say it's heavy-handed and then there's like a negative connotation to it. It's like, no, it just knows what it's like doing.
Right.
And certainly the show is a very like religious allegory show.
Okay, so I would actually love to start there because that's about
Sure.
like 50% of my notes.
Yeah, fair enough.
Because it was full of it, and that's actually one thing I struggled.
Chock-full.
Yeah, it was one thing I struggled with when it came to literary studies, is the religious references
To like just any story.
Yeah, literature, like any movie or book that I had to study
some
for
of my all-time favorites.
my degree
are
was
just that.
It was anything that has biblical allusions or religious allegories.
Shouts to
And
Donnie Darko.
I struggle with that because I grew up Buddhist.
Yeah.
So
Shouts to the wrestler.
my my
I don't know
teacher. Okay, cool. So my creative writing teacher knocked me down really badly on a paper one year, like I think freshman year, when I was like a straight A student. So this really upset me. Was, oh yeah, like this was, you missed all the biblical allusions. And I said, unfair of you to grade me against biblical allusions when I
mean, that is true.
Buddhist. She's like, you have to know these. They're the common Bible stories. I'm like, again, what is a Bible?
Right.
Like, rude?
Yeah. No,
Tell me what you know about the Dharma.
I agree with that.
But it has been very important to know these because it came up in a lot of culture.
And that's just because of culture.
It is, but it's interesting to see it in an anime. Right. So it makes me wonder what is the origin story of Trigun? Tell me about the creators and why they made it so many biblical allusions.
So I don't know too much about that. I don't know too much about that. What I do know is that it is pretty inspired by some classic westerns. And Rob's gonna like this one because I can't wait till he rewatches it. But one of the favorite westerns of the people who made Trigun is The Quick and the Dead.
Oh.
And The Quick and the Dead, actually, it has been like on note that like, oh, having all this religious imagery, even though it's not very prevalent in The Quick and the Dead, they're not like talking about religion all the time like they are in Trigun. A lot of characters wear crosses and like there is a religious backdrop to the Wild West because it is the Wild West. You have to find faith somewhere in order to get you by these trying times. And so like, it is very prevalent in the genre. Where you set that dial is up to you, and very clearly Trigun set it to 11. Right? So like because like I said, in The Quick and the Dead, it's probably at a 1. You know, like you don't really think about that. But there are characters who are wearing crosses. I think like when they duel at high noon, there's like a church in the background, type of stuff like that. And so it is prevalent in the Western genre.
I mean, that's so interesting. Actually, now I think about it, to watch a Western in an Eastern medium of storytelling. And so whenever I see that kind of mix, it says, to me, it references the invasion of West to East sometimes, depending on like what's the plot and the story. In this case, it didn't feel like it was an invasion.
Sure.
It felt like the coming together, like collusion in a good way, not collision, collusion, where they actually get along. Because actually, if you look at Vash's animation, his literal appearance is, was it Aryan? Like blonde hair, blue eyes. Same with his twin, who's the bad guy. So it's like the good and the bad of the same origin. And then, but there wasn't a lot of conversation about that, and that's something.
Because I think that plays into the fact that this is not a discussion about what's good or evil.
It's not, and which is interesting for anything that has any sort of religious, I guess, undertones. Or overtones in this case.
Right.
It kind of reminds me a lot of, and actually I mentioned this in a lot of my notes, a lot of Full Metal Alchemist, which a lot of
that is a lot of
similarities.
That also has religious connotations.
Yes.
Funny how science does that.
Yeah.
Anything involving science.
Well, yeah, because it's always a question. They almost have to fight with each other all the time.
It's creation.
Science is like the almost denouncer of what was believed religious, or magic or not spiritual. And then it's like science goes, no, there's a perfectly logical explanation for this. And, no, don't take away my magic tricks, man.
Right.
Yeah, and then also that has also a very Western heavy
Mm-hmm.
influence. I mean, their names, Edward,
Mm-hmm.
Alphonse,
Yeah.
Right.
Meryl in this one, Roberto.
Roberto De Niro.
He's so there is a famous movie actor named Robert De Niro.
No way.
Wait, it's not Roberto De Niro.
So I just found it hysterical that they did that.
Yeah.
And a subject of controversy, right? Because like it's Meryl Streep and Roberto De Niro, not Meryl Streep and
Millie
Millie Thompson.
That's,
And people love Millie Thompson. Do you know who Millie Thompson is?
Only because Paul told me.
Okay.
Because it was referenced.
Yeah, right. It's referenced at the end.
Yep.
That made me go, let's go!
it's very
He did too.
it's very interesting
Yeah.
because like Trigun Stampede is like a reimagining of Trigun.
Right.
There's a moment in the story where like if you're very familiar with Trigun, it's like it hits you with like, is this a prequel?
Yes. Actually, Paul said that. So I don't know anything about original.
Right.
But he was
Right.
like, he pulled out his phone.
Yeah.
Like, is this an original? Or like
You start-
prequel?
Like the very first episode, there's a small hint in there of like, so Vash has a bounty on his head.
Right.
Do you know what his bounty is?
I don't remember.
600 million or
It's
something like
$6 billion double dollars, right?
Okay.
In the original show, it is $60 billion double dollars, right?
Oh.
So at the beginning of the show, you're just like, did they just change the number for just like simplicity's sake, just part of this reimagining, or is there more
Right.
here, right?
Right.
And as you go through it, they start talking about July, right? The city of July,
Yeah.
and
that.
then
Funny note about that. But did you notice that the map
oh yeah,
wrote it as the month of
Yeah.
July?
Yep.
Yeah.
What's really funny is the original does that too, and I'm just like, why? Why are you just spelling it this way here?
And then the subtitling
so
is
it's different.
is
I don't
July.
understand. I don't
Yeah.
understand.
Yeah.
But you realize, like, oh, July is still standing. He hasn't blown it up yet. This is a Wait a minute. Because, like, he doesn't meet Meryl till after all of this in the original. He doesn't meet a lot of these characters until after the
Right.
original.
And that's the reimagining aspect.
And that's the reimagining of just like, we're
Yeah.
setting all this up prior to that. And I was
Right.
like, oh,
Well-
this is brilliant.
Timing is a lot of stuff too.
Yeah.
Right? Like we literally watch time happen in the show
Mhm.
because everything takes place pretty much in real time.
Mhm.
There's no time skips really,
Mhm.
but there is questions of linearness too. Actually, in some episodes, is like the next one would open and you'd be like, wait, why did he end up back at this place that he called home?
Right.
It's like, oh, what did she save him from? Wait, what is this? That looks like the
There-
wound that he got from.
There are some instances where they do play with time and perception of time.
Yes.
I primarily think of the what's the episode where they go back to that town and the kid became a monster?
Oh, Rollo.
Oh, Rollo.
Yeah.
The Rollo
Rollo.
episode, I think,
Yes.
because like that episode doesn't even open with Vash. It opens with Rollo.
Yeah.
It's like, who is this? What's going on?
Yeah.
And then like,
How's this going to tie back to Vash?
Right.
And it really doesn't answer that until well after we're into watching the whole conflict.
Yeah.
Mhm. Right.
Yeah, and they another time one was how long he has known Vash? About 150 years, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What?
What? Excuse me?
But we also don't know this world well enough to even know that was unusual, right?
Right.
We're questioning like, okay, maybe that's normal, and then
Yeah.
when she reacts that way of like,
It
what?
is unusual.
It's like,
yeah.
but that's again playing with time because they can do the cryo sleep
Mhm.
or the freeze sleep, and that's like, again, you play with time when you do something like that as a
Yeah.
scientist,
Right.
where you can actually extend the life of something. But that's what we do with refrigeration. That's what we do with freezing food.
It's also like kind of sad because like that means any free time you would have to exist and be a human, they don't do. They immediately go back to sleep in order to extend their life because it is important that in their waking hours they are
keep
doing
this sustaining as long
going.
as we
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then the only free time they ever have is when Vash comes back and they take, they interact with them, and that's probably why they hold it to such high regard. And they're pretty much his adopted parents, so it's like,
Yeah.
I don't know. It made me feel kind of sad for the situation, but it's also
It
sweet
is.
that they love each other.
It is a sweet and sad feeling.
Exactly.
In a lot of ways.
And that doesn't have to be said. It is just like, this is the situation, and me as the viewer is like, oh, oh, that's a bummer.
Mhm.
And
They
I-
didn't even
you
seem
know.
bummed about it though.
No, they don't. No, they
Um,
don't, because it's just how things are.
And I don't even think that's why. I think they actually feel like their life is actually more purposeful
Sure.
because of
that
this.
makes sense.
It wasn't just being thrown away to squander and struggle like everybody else. They're
Right.
like, we actually have a purpose.
Right.
We're actually trying
We
to
have a
accomplish
reason
something,
here.
and we're succeeding. Actually,
Right.
we've made small
Yeah.
improvements and progress.
Right.
Yeah. In our own
Um,
little pocket of this hellscape.
And we actually see that pocket, that oasis, after that moment, reappear over and over again.
Hmm.
That's the impact that this pop of color
Hmm.
has had now to the rest of the show,
Right.
Hmm.
and that's cool.
Hmm.
That's really good artistry
Yeah.
in the anime.
I mean, you know, the entire show does want to like point out.
Can I have some of your son?
Well,
Absolutely.
it always wants to point out that like, man, stuff sucks, but like, there is little things that, you know, keep us going. It's a very like, I don't know, that theme is great. I eat that theme up. Near all tomatoes,
Yeah.
eat that stuff up.
What'd you say?
Near Automata.
Near Automata, it's a game.
What's that?
It oh boy.
It's a game designed by a creator named Yoko Taro. It's a lot of like, what does it mean to be a human? Like, you're playing as a robot that's like, you're in charge of protecting humanity who is sleeping on the
Pluto.
moon. Yeah, it's very Pluto.
It's also very heavy-handed,
but it's
just
also-
like Trigun.
yeah.
I mean, her name is 2B,
Oh,
right?
or not.
Yeah, exactly. So
Exactly.
It's heavy-handed in that regard.
But it's very cool because it tells its story in a way that can only be told through a video game.
Right.
And that's kind of all I want to say on camera for that.
Right.
It's story
Because I
best
think it should
to
If you want to know
experience.
more, subscribe to.
I mean, I do want to
And,
replay it on stream at some point.
Yeah.
So we'll see how that goes. But yeah, it is thematically about like, man, existence is rough. Existence is hard. But there are things, and maybe some people consider them little things. Some people consider them big things. They'll get you through, and life is worth living, you know. And that's a lot of it. That's a lot of Trigun is like, because right, I think there is a particular scene where Vash is like, it's just very hard for him. He doesn't have any powers, you know, and Rem is very like,
Yet,
yeah, like,
does he? Like, you know,
but yet does he?
I mean, he do.
he-
He do. He do.
I think it was apparent from the very beginning that he's got a power, right? The
Mhm.
fact that he could avoid getting hurt.
Yeah, he was not getting shot. Yeah.
Yeah.
But they constantly like bring that up.
Like, he's not human. Oh gosh.
Yeah. And you couldn't help but like wonder because he does lean more human, I guess, quote unquote. You know, he wanted to be amongst them. You know.
Mm-hmm.
But let's do back to the religious stuff. So at this point now you're watching the anime. But you have taken. Did you study more religion or like
yeah,
the
I had
Bible
to.
since then? Yeah,
I
right.
had to. I actually went to Catholic school growing up. So I had to like pull back from the recesses of my dark days.
Right.
And there was a lot of things that I caught because of that. Like, I having to study a lot of literature
Mhm.
and film and kind of catch like, oh, there's a reference there. I was actually telling him earlier about like, oh, there's the Icarus stuff,
Mhm.
which isn't, you know, Bible necessarily,
No.
but it's
But it is myth.
it is a religion. That was, you know,
Yeah.
a religion at the point. Then we have a
Have you heard
lot.
of Jason Campbell?
Uh-uh.
Have you heard of Jason Campbell? He wrote these books called. He wrote a book called The Hero with a Thousand Faces, and then I can't remember the other book he's like really well known for, but it is like that discussion of like, since ancient history and since us telling stories, we have taken the heroic story, the story of the hero, and just like replaced him with another version of it. Famously, George Lucas was a big fan of Jason Campbell and worked with Jason Campbell when making Star Wars.
That makes. I've heard so many things about religious allegories with Star Wars.
With Star Wars, as well as it is just an adaptation of Akira Kurosawa's Battleground and other Akira Kurosawa. They are samurai films in space.
Mm-hmm.
And he is taking those heroes from Japanese, you know, literature and
They
making
literally
them his
fight
own.
with swords
and
and their minds.
and what's it called? Yeah, it's just if you are interested in that stuff, I highly recommend even just listening to an audiobook of like A Hero of a Thousand Faces. It is fascinating.
Is it a long read?
I don't remember it being, but I was also smitten by the book.
I get it.
You know, like it's riveting stuff to me. It's why I love Hades the game. Hades the game is like it is Hero with a Thousand Faces to a T, and like also more. It's incredible. And so like I can't help but Trigun is that too in an insane way from the biblical studies, but then also the original Trigun is a part of its like source material and inspiration. So I'm getting my mind blown here. I'm like, oh my god, my Jason Campbell synapses are like firing all over the place. You know, so that's why, you know, with you going back to studying more religious stuff, it's like, it's curious. I wonder if, I don't know. Do you think it adds or takes away from the story, the religious stuff?
Sometimes it took away, but not horribly.
Sure.
Like for example, why did the Undertaker have to have a cross shape, you know, weapon?
Wolfwood.
Yes.
Well, isn't he religious?
Is he?
I mean, he's a false priest. Is he
Yeah.
really religious, or is that just the
Was it
the facade he's putting on?
Didn't his organization was a religion, right?
It was a cult.
Yeah, it's a cult.
Yeah, I mean, you know, a lot of people will tell a lot of people will tell you that religion is a cult. So you know, it is kind of
depends on how you want to categorize it. Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. But I wouldn't necessarily call Wolfwood like an actual like priest or a man of God, really. You know,
right?
And
That is
so,
just
like,
the persona
in
he
terms
takes
of
on.
taking it away, no, it doesn't. But it's like, why?
Right.
Like, I could not. There's nothing in me that could possibly feel okay with him having this as his like weapon. And like, sure, fantastic theatrics of the way he would spin it around,
Man,
just
it
to
was
turn,
tight.
just to turn from here to here.
Yes.
It goes
It was sick.
here. And it's like when you just go.
I think really the thought behind it was just like, hey, wouldn't this be cool if?
Yes.
That's really
Well,
what
the
it was.
fact that he also drags it through the desert too,
Yeah.
it adds to the whole religious allegory stuff.
I mean, he's
And, like,
carrying a cross,
carrying a
right?
cross.
He's like,
I mean, Easter, right, is before his crucifixion, Jesus' crucifixion, he drags the cross, carries the cross. And they even say
Oh, is that how that
a
works?
line,
Yeah.
I don't know anything. About
it was part of the, there was actually a whole ritual to crucifixion. Crucifixion was not specific to Jesus.
Right.
That
Right.
was a method of torture.
right.
And so kind of like any other torture, where it's like the waterboarding
Right.
or the stretch chamber or a blood eagle. Crucifixion was another one.
Right.
And so there was a formula you had to go through. So other people have been crucified. It just, Jesus was the most famous one.
Right.
So they kind of put him through a similar thing. And they even say too, to him, have you ever laid down your cross? Like, have you ever, you know, put it down or whatever? He said, no, you know. And it was like, it's a thing that they can ask him and talk to him about. So it contributes to his character.
Right.
But to me, it doesn't make sense. Like, it's forced. It feels forced. Like, you just made this a thing.
You don't feel like he's carrying some kind of burden?
I didn't feel like it equated to a cross.
Right. Okay. That's fair.
It could be a really heavy sack that someone just carries around, like a big boulder, you know.
Sure.
That probably could have been just as good of an allegory. Because he wasn't a Jesus figure. You know,
No, he's false prophet.
Right.
Yeah.
Or false priest.
Yeah, false priest. And he even, like, is asked to say a prayer. He even doesn't ask, he just volunteers to say a prayer over some dead bodies. That doesn't even turn out to be the parents of this kid.
Right.
So this kid doesn't even care. Yeah, and then he's, like, vulgar, too.
He's not afraid to kill. Yeah.
No. And
There's so many things that are just, it's the gray area.
Yeah.
It's not about good or evil.
So
It
all-
contributes to that.
Yeah, and all the religious stuff, it really didn't add to it, to me.
Interesting.
I don't know. I'm curious if somebody who has a religious background, if it actually spoke volumes to them, and why. Because I'm not coming from that background.
Right.
Yeah, I grew up Catholic, so there's a lot there for me.
Oh, say more.
I'm agnostic, but
Okay, say more.
keep saying, Asher. Don't stop saying.
But
That's what the millennials say, right? Or the kids
But I
say
am
these days,
very-
like, say more.
But I am very into it. Like there are things where I'm just like, because I'm the type of person that's like, oh, we tell stories over and over again all the time. It actually doesn't take it away from me. I actually had a really long, and it's on stream, conversation with my friend Elias about like what originality is and how I do not care if I'm being fed the same story again, as long as it is like you like interesting, I guess, like the way a person is telling me the same story is interesting.
This made me think of a Summertime Rendering. There's like, does the copy become as valuable as the original?
Right. Yeah.
It's that entire discussion.
Yeah.
And I will never. I have yet to be swayed from my stance on some of these like aspects of it. And yeah, if Trigun is just a retelling of Sodom and Gomorrah or a retelling of yeah, I'm ready to go into it.
Trigun's a retelling of Trigun. That's what I know.
Yeah, well, yeah, exactly, and that adds like a new layer to this discussion that I find fascinating now, because like you have to study it because, you know, even though your background isn't it, your teacher and like others found it important to like know these stories.
I mean, think about my environment that I'm growing up in too.
Right.
It's like, you can't not know these things, Jenny.
Right.
Do you consider yourself educated?
And then now here it's interesting for me. So you didn't grow up with that background either. Is it similar situation? It neither takes away or adds to you?
It doesn't do anything for me.
You probably like missed a lot of it, actually.
I don't view things through like I don't catch like religious things like to a deep level, right? Like it has to be like super surface for me.
Right.
Hi.
Oh, I just have a question.
Yeah,
sure.
This is something I've seen come back in animation for a few ones, but I'm like, what is the significance? I'm wondering if you know the one-winged angel.
Sephiroth.
So yeah, I mean, there is definitely Sephiroth.
Yeah, Final Fantasy VII.
All a one-winged angel is, it's not, at least, so I'm not a religious studies expert. What I know about a one-winged angel is that it is a person who has fallen from heaven.
Is Satan supposed to be
Satan is a one-winged angel.
Oh.
Right.
Huh.
He's an example of one. And in our anime's case, it is both our fellows who have fallen from the paradise of, what is that ship's name?
6 or 5? Ship 5?
Didn't it have Seed?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Seed.
Yeah.
What a name.
Seed.
Right, Seed.
I'm planting.
And so, yeah, they are fallen angels.
Because Tokyo Ghoul does it too.
Yeah, it has. I haven't seen it in a while, but yeah, it does a similar thing. Yeah, it is a very... All right, where do I want to start with this conversation? Because it easily get cluttered here. Because, right, arguably they have been cast from heaven when they crashed the ship and ended up in literally called No Man's Land.
Yeah.
A hellscape where, you know, as compared to when they were on the ship and they had all the plant life, it was green, it was like...
Everything was good.
Everything was good. And then, of course, the tragedy of discovering that it is at the expense of, like, using a living plant, you know? And then the differing, like, opinions of Bash and Nai. Nai sees himself as, like, God. He is their superior.
Yes.
In those ways.
He's the cult leader.
Yeah.
Jeez.
And then, you know, he put it upon himself to damn them to hell. And that's Sodom and Gomorrah. Sodom and Gomorrah were two cities in the Bible that were sinful cities. They engaged in like homosexuality. They engaged in
Vegas
like,
and Amsterdam.
You know, like the biggest sin of all. No, I'm just kidding. You know, but that's
two portals. They actually connect to each other.
they just used the new New York portals that they just put out.
Yeah,
just very like
yeah.
just very lascivious, like living. And God essentially, it's Old Testament God, which is like
damnation.
Yeah, it's like
hellfire and brimstone.
You are fucking going to hell. I'm going to destroy your cities. And that happens like kind of it arguably Seed is Sodom and arguably July is Gomorrah. Like Seed gets cast into hell and then like
boy, that's funny because Seed, Seed was the other one, right?
Yeah,
Not
see,
others?
this is shit.
Shit.
Oh wait, what
Ship
was
crashing.
the city that they were coming from?
July.
No,
Oh, no, wait. Oh.
coming from.
Oh.
Was it August?
Because July is Hong Kong,
hmm
and what was the first one that they're coming from?
Was it August?
Because that was New
Remember.
York City.
I don't remember.
The very first one, like episode 1, that they're coming from.
You know that map that they have where they're like saying where they're coming
Yeah.
from to go?
Yeah, I don't remember.
It's funny because it goes from New York City
Uh-huh.
to China, or
Uh-huh.
Hong Kong specifically,
Yeah.
but then they make a detour to Egypt
Uh-huh.
for the hopeless orphanage.
Right.
Mhm, mhm.
Yeah,
That's
so it's
fun.
like, huh,
These are the two cities.
interesting.
Is that what you mean?
It's like they
Yeah.
try to go to like, oh, but find salvation first.
Right.
before you go
I
back,
see.
Before you go back to damnation. Hong
Yeah.
Kong.
And so,
And they kept showing it too. They kept
Yeah.
coming back to that. So it's like,
Right.
like you're trying to really hone in on this.
so yeah, that's its entire kind of like steez is they are fallen angels. They have been cast out from paradise, but also they took the humans with them.
But were they in paradise though?
The humans were in paradise, probably.
Mm.
I mean, we don't know for sure. I mean,
It didn't sound like they were. Whenever you heard Luida
Mhm.
talk about it, they said like they gifted Vash the red jacket,
Mhm.
and they said it's hard to come across like clothed. You know, he says
Right.
that he's like, this is a huge
I mean,
deal.
Earth was destroyed by that,
Yes.
right?
So the
Like-
fact that it's hard to come across colors,
Right.
you know, that's a huge indicator of like this isn't paradise.
But by comparison, is Seed a paradise compared to No Man's Land?
I don't know.
I mean, they were pretty self-sufficient up there
Mhm.
for what they were
Exactly.
doing. So,
But at the expense of.
but at the expense of the
Plants.
plants, right?
Right.
So it's like, is it paradise or anything like that? I don't know, but like they were living.
They were living.
Oh, you know what? That makes me think about water too, right?
Mhm.
From Genora Rock,
Mhm.
Yeah.
from versus like other water that they
Yes. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
had. Even Meryl was like, ooh,
Right.
Mm-hmm.
hmm
Right.
So like
the water basically was like whiskey at that point.
pretty much.
So that's the theme of the Fallen Angel. It's also just cool. I wouldn't be surprised if it's just cool.
Well, I mean, there was that cool scene where they come together
mhm.
and become one whole angel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And because that's his objective, right? Was to assimilate him.
Yep.
So it's like it is playing up that moment, but they're different colored wings. It makes sense why Nye's wings is white because he sees himself as like righteous and like superior.
And Vash sees himself as the black sheep.
Right.
You know,
Exactly. An outlier, but also fighting for the people down here.
Mhm.
You know, and so like that's a fascinating religious allegory. There's also like the entire thematic of Jesus Christ and sacrifice for people who do not appreciate him.
Mhm.
So one thing that we did research was the
Mhm.
use of the color red
Mhm.
in the animation.
Right.
And so I thought it was interesting that red was the color of like salvation,
Mhm.
which is usually it's a color of doom.
Mhm.
Yeah,
You think
right.
about the red orchid
Yeah.
or the spider lily.
Well, you think of like bleeding,
Yeah.
well, especially when it
I mean,
becomes
there's
like
that.
a field
There's
of
also-
like when it comes to field of red, the soil is
Right.
colored red, it's an
Right,
ocean
right.
of red, it's all
Mhm.
blood, death, gore.
Mhm.
So I was like, what interesting choice, that red is the color of salvation. So we actually looked it up, and it actually is the color of blood and life and death,
Mhm.
atonement.
Mhm.
Hmm.
It represents Jesus' sacrifice
Mhm.
and martyrdom specifically.
Mm.
So I was like,
all encompassing of the
all
theme of
Makes
and
sense.
there's even more layers
Bash.
to it.
Yes.
It is a classic clashing color scheme.
It is.
The War of Roses is white versus red,
mm.
as well as oh man, I had it literally there, and then as I was about to start talking about it, my brain was like, nope, chuck that out.
I mean, now I'm thinking,
The Western of Japanese cinema, and that is samurai cinema. Like Lady Snowblood, when samurais fight each other, and then there's like the white flowers, the field of flowers that they fight in, and then someone gets cut, and then the blood
Yeah.
splatters.
they did that in Kill Bill.
Yep.
They do it in, gosh, so many things.
It is a classic color clash,
Mhm.
even though that, aesthetically on the color wheel doesn't imply that. But this isn't concerned with that. It's concerned with the history of the medium. And so the War of the Roses, yeah.
And usually
Those divisions.
it is a visual of doom.
Yeah.
Whenever you see red spreading everywhere, you're like, uh-oh,
Mhm.
uh-oh, it's
Right.
bad. But here we're like, oh, thank God,
And it makes sense because he is kind of to be the Jesus Christ figure, his teachings are that of Rem's. Rem is, while like very directly in a very micro level, like a person who loved him and cared for him, as that mother figure, she is also, a sacrificial, like God type of figure.
I mean, that's how they painted her,
Right.
right? They said, oh, the other survivors said she fought to the last breath to make sure they survived. But I was like,
Right.
we saw her blow up in flames.
Mhm.
She didn't survive after that.
Right.
She got as many people as she could off of that ship, as she could. And then, didn't you help note, Lord, correct me if I'm wrong, but when the plants were spreading over July and it became this like figure, it looked like Rem.
Yes.
Yeah.
It was, I mean, everything was effeminate,
Yeah.
with long
man.
hair.
That one was definitely getting into that territory of like, the allusions to the pregnant plants.
Oh yeah.
I hated that.
You hated
That made me so uncomfortable when
Yeah.
they get like opened or whatever, and it's
Yeah.
like they're all pregnant, and then they even say he's impregnating them, and I was like,
So there is a
like rapey.
there is a
Whoa.
Sigmund Freud paper on how we all long to return to where we came from, which is the mother's womb.
You say that's for Made in Abyss too.
I said it for Made in Abyss as well as Summertime Rendering. So these are angels and
Oh,
they're
that's right. Yeah.
These are angels
Literally
and
goes
they
into
are
a Volva
ascending.
type.
right.
True.
So
Yeah.
once again, Hero with 1,000 Faces, we're 3 in. 997 more to go.
Woo!
Oh man.
It's not only right. Storytelling is so fascinating from Trigun because it is not just. It is heavy-handed with the religious aspect, but there's so much more.
there is a
There's
lot.
so much more.
There was a lot of choice in the design.
Yeah.
I mean,
There's a lot of intent.
yes. I mean, one of the first ones that was very striking to me was Janora Rock
Mhm.
and the characters that we interact with.
Mhm.
The, I guess, leader of the town is a pregnant woman.
Yep.
Mhm.
And just, I was so frustrated with that. You guys leave her do all the heavy lifting? Seriously?
I'm saying.
Y'all
She-
just
she-
like, you got this.
Do you guys see her? Like, can y'all help?
Can y'all fucking, she's like in her third trimester.
Exactly.
At least, my guys.
Right.
Like, and she also kicked out her, husband or whatever. Like,
Yeah,
what?
right.
What is wrong with y'all? Y'all are the reason she has to step up. That's how, oh my God, I'm so frustrated with that.
Mhm.
But very specific decision to make her the prominent figure
Right.
in this world.
I would not have
but it
even
also,
remembered
like,
that
says-
until you brought that up.
It also says the rules too of this world are we don't have rules,
Right.
right? You
No.
have with that's one thing actually I loved about the Roberto and Meryl relationship was she's a newbie, but he let her run the show.
Right.
Mhm.
And he didn't even like pitch a fit really about it, and he'd even complain like, "This doesn't make any sense."
Yeah.
Every once in a while, he'll say something. He'll give his opinion, right?
Yeah.
But then goes, "All right,
we'll
we're
go
going."
for it.
He really didn't.
He was actually like looking out to protect her until it was very important to let her know you can't just choose, right? It's that line. It's like you can't just choose. You don't have the luxury of choosing the easy decision.
Hmm.
We're now in that place and you have to make the tough decision.
Yeah.
Leaves her the gun. And it's like, she had really good character development for a character that I just didn't see that in the original Trigun.
Yeah.
And I think that's
They
part of
did.
the
They
beauty
did
of that
so
reveal.
much for Meryl
Yeah. they did.
in this.
Meryl stands winning.
Mm-hmm.
What's up?
Okay, so one of my notes here is my frustrations with Meryl.
Yeah.
But we haven't done. We could do a character breakdown. Are we done with the religious part of things?
If you guys, I mean, that's about the extent that I want to go to. I gave you guys like a little bit of breakdown of Sodom and Gomorrah, the Jesus stuff is like pretty on the nose.
Yeah.
It doesn't take like a religious studies major to like
Catch all the references.
Catch all
Literally,
that
the
stuff.
cross that Undertaker's carried.
and like I said, yeah, I completely get it if it doesn't do anything for you, but because I did a lot of story studying, I don't think it makes it inherently, it's not an objective thing. I don't think it makes it a better story, but I do think like there is something about the like poignancy of these tales if we are retelling it again in an anime made in 2023. Obviously the story of Christ is a compelling one, whether or not you follow religion.
The story of Christ compels you.
It's just cool. I think it's cool. I don't have an inherent like disdain for it.
Right.
I have my own separate opinion about religion. That does not apply here because it is just storytelling at the end of the day. And sometimes I have also had those retellings that are bad. Shout outs to Darren Aronofsky. I'm sorry, I did not like Mother.
Dang.
Or Noah. But
double dang.
But his other stuff like The Wrestler. The Wrestler is one of his ones where he had success, and it is a Christ figure thing. So yeah, we can step away from there. I said my piece about it because now I've realized that it's like, okay, so you have like a little bit of a background in it because you had to, and then Rob couldn't care less, and that is completely fine. But I think it is a worthwhile for sure, thing about it. So yeah, let's keep it rolling. If you have something to say,
yeah. So I love Vash.
Yeah,
me
too.
Got very frustrated with Meryl. And I realized Roberto's character was potentially useless. Because the story could have continued without him. And I was questioning the whole time.
He wasn't in the original, so.
That's what it felt like he was a created character.
Yeah.
And I felt it. That annoyed me. Because when his, what happens with him is, to me, frustrating. And then after that point, I felt that it became formulaic with the anime. And Meryl served a purpose to a point. So, as I'm watching this, I feel like I am Meryl. I have all the questions that she has. As we're watching this, we're like, wait, what's going on? Like, why is this bad? Wait, why is he bad? Wait, why is this like the way it is?
Yeah.
Why are we just accepting of this? And I want to fight every fight that she wants to fight until a point. And then after that, I get kind of like frustrated because you said that you actually saw that she had a character development.
Yeah.
That was actually the thing that I was like, I don't think she does.
I think she often is trying not to get involved.
Really?
Or no, wait, that's not true. I feel like, well, no, and I think that's part of like Roberto. I think Roberto is constantly trying to reel her in from the decisions that she doesn't have to kill herself over, I guess. I think I do see a world where she walks away at the end. Or there is a version of Meryl that didn't develop in that way. And I think the decision for her to show up, and not only that, but just talk mad shit to Wolfwood.
Yeah, I mean, even the entire ending.
Because her
I'm surprised it didn't kill her already. The fact that it didn't.
She was kind of like a what's the word I'm looking for here? Like a frilled lizard.
Yes.
All show, no bite.
Lizard.
Yeah.
Like she would puff up her chest, right?
Dude,
and then she'd be like, "Oh, I gotta run
I
behind."
wrote that.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
God.
exactly. All bark, no bite. But I felt like in the final episode, she was biting.
No.
Really?
Yeah.
I thought she was actually doing stuff.
I did not.
She wanted to.
She's in the middle of a fight between gods.
Like she
So she couldn't do stuff.
Couldn't do anything she wanted to.
Yeah. And I think that's different because I think she would always voice that she wanted to, but then she would always hide after. And so like, I felt like...
It's because Roberto kept making her hide.
He didn't make her
But
hide.
she was also way more effective earlier on.
Mhm.
I mean, there's that bullet scene,
Yeah,
right?
Mhm.
She actually actioned something. It was the one
She
thing that
does.
actually saved everybody
yeah.
from the initial onslaught. But in that final scene, though, I was like, she should have been gone long before now. Especially with how much it was taking over
Right.
everything. I was like, the fact that she's still here is literally just for plot. And so I didn't think she was actually effective in anything. She didn't change her methods. Her way was just the same as she had been the whole time.
So
a
you think
lot
if she
of
was
yelling.
not in that scene, Vash would not have succeeded?
Wait, if she was not in that scene, Vash would not have succeeded?
Right.
Or he would have succeeded?
He would not have succeeded. Like, he would not have succeeded in, like, fighting
I think he would have
knives.
succeeded.
I don't think
he
so.
would. I don't believe for a second.
And I think it's as simple as, like, Vash coming out of it and telling her thank you.
Yeah, see, I felt that was so contrived for her all to make up for all of her yapping, because he did not hear it at all at any point before that, and she'd been doing it for a long time at this point.
Mhm.
He also probably can't hear her because he's also in his head.
Well, that's what... You're saying all the things that the doctor is saying. The doctor is saying, he can't hear you.
And he couldn't because you never saw her voice echoing in him.
But do we have to see that visually in order for it to be so?
I think so because it validates
But then why would he say thank you?
to make her feel better.
You and I have a different opinion on who Vash is. If you think that he did that simply to make her feel better.
I think he would because he knows that like how she's feeling at that moment of like, oh, she's still here,
Mhm.
you know, and like, but he also knows that she doesn't really have much to go back to.
Mm-hmm.
She's wandered as much as he has, so he's like, she's probably in the same situation where, you know, she's kind of here, but she's here for him. He appreciates that, but it's not that she pulled him out of his trance or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
She doesn't know anything about his relationship with his brother. He is, if you think about where he just came from,
Mm-hmm.
she knows none of that.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not a thank you for pulling me out of that, for being here with me the whole time. It's a, cool, we in this together.
Hmm.
And you're not a face that's trying to kill me right now.
Interesting. But can't that be enough? To not feel alone?
Hey, thanks for not hating me.
Huh?
Hey, thanks for not hating me.
What do you mean?
Like that's how it feels like. 'Cause
Oh.
everybody around him has hated him at some point because
Well, yeah.
of that.
But even then, that was
Is that not
mean
enough?
a lot to him, though, wouldn't it?
To him,
That means a lot.
I would argue no, because
Hmm.
he's seen people turn on him after even years of knowing him.
But
and
that has
loving
never
him.
changed him. Right?
So then that thank you is for her, not from his heart, because it doesn't impact him. Because like it's same with Denora Rock, right?
Uh-huh.
He was like, you've known them for years. They're like, Vash, you know,
Right.
and then they turn on him twice.
Right. But I guess, does his opinions of those people change?
I think it does.
I don't think it does. But I'm so caught up on, but also once again, I have the religious background of the Christ figure. Another thing that Vash leans into is they know not what they do.
Mm.
They don't realize, like it and my opinion on that hasn't changed. It's still worthy of salvation.
Mm. For me, I felt like him saying thank you to her was a for her moment, not for him, and not a reflection of
Interesting.
him, because Meryl represents the audience,
Mm-hmm.
and Meryl is sticking along
Mm-hmm.
this far, and she can't actually do anything to like help him or hurt him, and so do we.
Sure, but I don't. Vash doesn't read to me as a person who hides his feelings that way, or like is doing things just to make.
He hides his feelings a lot.
Yeah, he does. But I
Literally
guess-
sleeps
but-
so that he doesn't have to
But I guess he
showcase
does,
his
But I guess he
sadness.
doesn't like. I don't know. In this moment, I just don't. I weirdly don't buy it. I feel like I felt like it was genuine.
I don't think it's disingenuine. I think it's genuine to his intent.
But I also think that it would make him much less likable if the intent was just, you're trying your best, buddy. You know, like, here's a pat on the back. You know, like, because that just doesn't, I don't know. There's something that makes me feel weird about him, I guess, for a character that's supposed to be like so righteous. That he's like throwing them a bone or something like that, you know? At least that's just how I feel.
And that I love that, raising that question about how much do you trust Vash, or how much do you feel like, all right, like Vash is on my side, or Vash is somebody I could vibe with and be cool with, you know? Like, for me, I would raise that question of like, don't throw me a fucking bone. Like, I didn't do anything. That was all you, buddy. Good job. You know? And you're over here like, yeah, I did it good. You know, I'm curious, like that actually is a really fun character now that we both have very different views of how we would interact with Vash.
Right. And that's oh, go ahead.
That's the conversation we're having with this anime.
Well, yeah, that's the entire theme of the show.
That's great.
That differing opinions on, you know, what things are, is the whole, like, that is Vash and Nai. It's just Vash and Nai. It's not right or wrong.
No.
But
it's the way we related to the characters, right?
Right.
Our love for, I mean, you love Vash, I do too.
I do.
And we do love him for different reasons.
Right.
And that's awesome. That actually brings me to the next point that I wanted to ask at some point was, how do you feel about Millions of Knives?
Millions Knives. Well, I do. Well, before, if you don't mind, before we step into that, I feel like Rob hasn't had a piece of that conversation.
Yeah,
and I wondered if Rob, or if you don't feel strongly about it, if you don't care, then,
I was
then we
fascinated
can
by
move on.
you guys' conversation. I was like, I am so far removed from this conversation happening.
I'm sorry.
I was like, no. It's not even that. It was a fascinating list between both of you. Like, I lean more on Asher's side of things, but I'm just like, I didn't think it was like, I didn't know that was going to be a big discussion. I was like, I thought Meryl did pretty good in that moment. But like, all right.
That whole thing drove me nuts.
But I don't have like a deeper like you guys spoke so deeply about all of that. I'm just like, whoa.
That's a good thing though. Like, seriously, that speaks volumes to this anime.
Yeah, that was cool.
Deep into ourselves as people.
That was
to say
cool.
like how we take this character.
Yeah.
It's not, and neither is bad, right?
No,
because like he still
no.
says thank you, and that's sweet. It's like, to me, like the moment where Tamaki says to that girl who was an absolute piece of garbage, thank you, Claire, or whatever. Says, thank you, whatever, and she's like, I don't know if I deserve that, whatever. But, that whole thing. But it's sure. Your interpretation of that moment though of like Tamaki as a character, it's like,
right.
Cool. Does it add to him?
And that's funny because like Tamaki is also like kind of one of my more least liked.
Yeah.
Right.
So it's just very funny.
I also was like, okay. Right.
Yeah. But yeah, no, it is very fascinating.
I'm glad you enjoyed the banter.
Oh yeah,
I wasn't sure if Rob felt a particular way about it. So
well, he said he was leaning more towards your style.
Yeah. So very interesting.
Yeah.
All right, so back to the topic at hand then. It was, how do I feel about Millions Knives? Oh, great villain. I wish he was in the original anime pretty quickly so that I can know what the conflict was. Wow.
Oh wait, rules. How long does it take for him to come in?
Oh, you don't see Knives till like towards the end.
Like 18?
Like 18.
Dang it!
That's when Knives really gets injected.
That's crazy.
That's when you get yeah. Right from the beginning, right in General Rock, as your mind shows up, he fucking lays waste to him, and you're just like, oh, Knives.
He's right there. Yeah, he's that guy.
He's that guy.
Well, the whole way
it's really cool redesign for Ichi the Mind, but
yeah,
Knives is fucking. Oof. But what's interesting is like Knives in the original is in some ways a little more terrifying.
Oh,
when you do so, like the stuff
because it takes so long to get there.
It takes a while to get to him, and then when you get to the Rem episode, which is the flashback, and you get to see what's happening on the ship. Knives is so manipulative in that whole sequence.
It did feel like they were holding back on Knives during those like interactions, the back flashbacks.
Yeah, it's wild to see like how much he will use people and like. Because, like, the entire crew at that point, like, there's some like disagreements between the crew members. Like there's kind of going at it a little bit here and there, but obviously they're all trying to like
live,
right?
Yeah, right.
And when Knives kind of has that moment of like, y'all are just using the plants, and like he's starting to really get into like, you guys ain't shit type mentality. He's like, well, I'm going to show Vash that humans aren't shit.
Yeah.
So like he notices two people having a conflict with each other, and he's just like, he goes and like says something to them so that they start infighting.
Right.
And then that ends up being like a murder scene that happens on the ship.
That's wild.
That is.
And Knives is in the background like, I don't know what happened. That's crazy.
Yeah.
That's crazy. Ash, how are you feeling about this? Humans ain't shit, right? They just turning on each other.
Yeah.
And like
they'll kill each other if you don't kill them.
They'll kill each other. It's crazy. You can't trust them. And it's just like slowly snowballs until finally like he ultimately like causes the entire destruction of the ship.
Yeah.
Right. It's really interesting. It almost reminds me of like when we watch like Alien and stuff like that, when we see like people start fighting with each other. Even
you can't help it.
On board, right.
Thing.
It's that same exact energy, and I'm like, yo, this is insane.
Okay, well, you could have, if somebody had just pitched to me that there's a story beat in original Trigun that's just Among Us, I would have been there a long time.
It is just Knives is just Among Us.
Yeah.
So it's interesting. There are parts in the original where Knives is like a little more evil in some aspects.
Yeah.
But the way that they portray him here is just like a raw, like he
Yeah.
does not give a fuck.
Right.
It's pretty intense.
Yeah. And they show the violence very well.
Yes.
It's like,
yes.
Whoa, this is terrifying. That first attack where he shows up and, grabs the plant and kills so many people.
Yeah.
And just like, whoa.
He kills E.G. the Mine, and then he kills the one innocent lady too, right? That was trying to help, and it's just like just ripped her apart, and just like, oh, fuck.
Yeah, exactly. You see what we're dealing with here.
You see that.
I mean, we already we're seeing kind of his insanity in that first episode, but then now we're getting it into physical violence.
Cutthroat is a different thing than actually being insane.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think the anime does struggle with, or Stampede does struggle with showcasing the insanity versus Cutthroat, because there's a distinction.
Right.
Cutthroat is, I will do whatever it takes to get my goal.
Okay.
Insanity is, you have a skewed mindset that can and level of logic, and you have logic. There's that, right?
Okay, so insanity was the wrong word.
But they put that towards the end, and also it's too late, I think, at that point to start describing that. But it's also very hard to describe. So when he does that whole trying to manipulate mind, what they call it, mind manipulation of Vash. That is kind of where we start to see the insanity part of things. But it's very hard to depict that late and also add that to everything else he's already done. So they limited his showcasing of what he can do and what he's willing to do. So that's where it became Cutthroat. But I was like, Cutthroat is not the right way to describe him. He has a logic to his actions.
Yeah.
And all of it, his actual thing that he did was probably because it was in front of Vash.
Yes,
right.
So
100%.
Otherwise, he might not have been that rough about it.
Right.
He might have been just like, oh, this is kind of lazy. Just push him aside, scare him. But going to the lengths that he did when the first scene, I almost wonder if the animators were like, maybe that's the wrong way to describe this guy, because he's not just bloody and cutthroat. He's actually conniving. Has been doing this his whole life.
Yes.
Right.
And so that whole the way he manipulated early on, we watch it later in the endings episodes of Stampede.
Right.
But it's also still hard to capture, and also they kind of do a bad job of it, because that is way more conniving than anything we saw.
Right.
The fact that he never actually tried to, for example, manipulate Rem.
Right.
And the fact that he failed every time he tried to with Vash. He failed repeatedly with Vash. It doesn't speak to the volumes that he could have done if they had done it that way as they did in the original. So that's kind of cool to see the distinction between those two.
Right.
Pretty interesting.
All right, let's take a break because Camera-kun is overheated. So we'll take a quick we'll take a quick break here, and we'll get back into the next subject.
Yep.
Which is...
I don't know what that is.
Oh.
We'll figure it out.
Oh,
But we'll figure it out.
At some point, I would love to talk about the animation.
Oh, for sure. We can definitely do that.
Cool.
All right, so be right back.
It's the camera coon.
And we're here to talk about animation. This is the first all 3D animation
The first?
that we watched. No, not the first.
I was about to say
that we watched.
That we watched. Yes,
That we watched.
We've had a couple.
Not that, as if there is a lot of them.
Right. We've had a couple where they sprinkled in 3D, right? So
Right.
Blue Lock was one of our first episodes, right?
Yeah,
It was
right.
like the 3D took us out of it at times,
Right.
right? Because it's very stiff, and that's kind of what people expect out of 3D anime, right?
Yeah.
Like anytime it's injected into a show, you're just like, oh, this kind of takes us out of it.
I did ask you guys about that, I think. Where
Yeah.
I was like, is something weird with like my watching? Because I feel like it's like jolty.
Yeah. It's weird and awkward and not like animated well. And they often do it because it's cheaper to
Right.
do 3D animation.
But
Right.
it's beautiful.
For Trigun, absolutely.
Right.
Oh.
Absolutely. In other shows, it is very eh.
I have wartime flashbacks to Berserk.
Berserk is an infamous one where like it is awful.
Really?
Yeah.
Mhm.
The most
Oh,
recent
no.
iteration of Berserk was so bad. So bad.
So
Yeah.
bad. So bad. So bad.
Just me hearing like women and children screaming, like just in the background of my head. It's like, man, it's bad.
Yeah.
But
but
Studio Orange,
yeah, we have Studio Orange.
their strongest soldier.
They believe in 3D so much, right?
And you know what? They're right. They were
Yeah.
right from the start. I was talking with Paul about Land of the Lustrous, which is all 3D, the first major project from them, right? Is
Yes.
that right? Okay. Yeah, it's the first major project from them. And it's a manga that was deemed unadaptable. So for them to come out the gates and be like, we really believe in this method of like animation, and we're going to tackle something that y'all claimed was unadaptable. So let's come out swinging and prove to you that this is ideal for these so-called things that are unadaptable. And I was like, all right. So when they got announced for Trigun, I was on that hype train.
Yeah. Yeah,
I was
absolutely.
I was like, let's go.
Absolutely. And it was another tough one because like a lot of fans of Trigun are just like, how are you going to take this show that is like super expressive?
Right.
And, like Vash's facial expressions
Right.
and like how crazy this show gets. Like, how are you going to do this in 3D and like really honor?
Well, have you seen
that?
there's a, recently there's a animation actor or whatever, who is used a lot for animating video games.
Mhm.
But she showcases like in her videos that become viral because like, it's her way of like making it more popular.
Right.
Mhm.
But she shows like early and like video games, like 3D
Yeah.
following, and then like newer and then current.
Yeah.
Right.
And so it's like she does. There's one where she does like hitting, like chopping wood.
Oh, I've seen this.
Yeah.
Yes, I know exactly what you're
Yeah,
talking about. Yes.
and like I actually related it a lot too. So this animation reminded me a lot of Arcane Legends with the way that they had the movements and stuff. It seemed like people and like slight facial movements, especially with a very non-facial reaction character of Wolfwood, where Undertaker, where he goes like, whatever, like small little
It's
like
little things. Yeah.
little
Yeah.
things. But Arcane Legends the same thing. And I was like, okay, cool.
Yes.
So that's the 3D doing well.
Incredibly well.
However, it
Okay.
did seem to have like stunted moments where it'd be like
Every so often.
choppy.
Frame drop.
Every so often.
You said
Yeah.
that. What does that mean?
So things are filmed at a certain frame rate. And depending on the difficulty of its animation, it'll frame drop. Or like let's say, so if I'm streaming, a good example is like if I'm streaming, and then there's like a moment where like I stutter, that was like almost like a frame drop, moment. Or like fighting games have has frame drop moments, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, maybe if you're playing online and this was like pre-rollback, a frame will drop and you like put an input in, but it doesn't read it it didn't read it at the correct time because of like a frame drop.
So then it comes out a little bit later. So then it gets like a little
later.
like a weird
jumpiness
to it.
So because like computer animation,
I feel like that happened a lot with Meryl's
yeah, because she
animation.
had a lot of like
Yeah, it'd be
All over the
like
place.
you see like
Yeah.
this like little like her
Yeah.
arms going dun dun
Yeah.
dun dun and then da 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 da.
Mhm.
Right.
You even see it like yeah, I don't know. It's strange.
And also it seemed like there had to be a lot of like fluid elements too, like Million Knives.
Mm-hmm.
His movements were very like
Right.
fluid.
Yeah.
Meryl's were very
You can definitely some of like probably some of the more like chaotic movements of
Mhm.
Meryl is just like we can't quite hit this smoothly.
she was more
right?
chaotic than Millions Knives.
Yeah. Right. It's like we can't quite hit it as smooth, right? And like it is noticeable at times, right? But there are other moments of that show that are just like super smooth, and you're like, okay, like
Right.
like they're still figuring
You're gonna see
it
that.
out.
You're gonna see
know?
that. You see that in 2D animation too.
Yeah.
So sometimes in creation, it's about picking your battles.
Mm.
It,
You know?
it kind of did
Yeah.
ruin the moment a few times though.
Mhm.
It worked well for Millions Knives
Mm-hmm.
and any scenes that had the red spreading.
Mm-hmm.
But also it ruined moments when it took over July and Meryl's movements, which she's us, right?
Mhm.
Like I said that from the beginning, she is representative of the watching audience who has no
Mhm.
idea about this world.
Mhm.
She's asking questions that we're asking
Right.
about. What do you mean that's like not how it's supposed to go? Like, what do you mean that's a danger? What do you mean I'm in danger right
Right.
now?
Right.
So, and then it being jarring to watch her movements,
Mhm.
it did detract for me
Interesting.
with the animation.
Mhm.
And so I was asking you guys, I was like, was this like an older one? You guys know it just came out like a couple years ago. I was like,
No.
last year.
Came out the same time as Blue Lock.
Yeah.
Although I would argue that Blue Lock's is more egregious.
Egregious? Yes,
Yeah,
you did say that. I remember that. And I
Yeah.
was like, I felt like it was worse in Trigun.
Really.
Yeah, it threw off. I don't know. Now I'm thinking about it. It
don't
made
know.
sense to me in Blue Lock. But
Blue Locks was pretty rough. That was pretty rough. Like,
It was.
like I noticed Meryl like being a little off compared to everything else because how smooth everything else is. Like it stands out for Meryl,
Mhm.
but like I never felt taken out of it.
I think
Like-
you know what I
Like
think
it
is
was
the
alright.
big thing for me, and this is for me,
Mm.
is the intent
Mm.
for them to try to even swing for it in the first place. That is a
Mm.
decision that is easy to say, why don't we not make her as animated as that?
yeah.
So why do they follow through? Why did they choose to die on that hill
Mm-hmm.
in the creative process?
They had other options. They had a lot of other options.
And I think part of it is that like it's the belief in it. It is that like we really strongly believe in it, so we're going to
wanna go
try
for it.
anyway.
We wanna
We're going to go
it.
for it.
See, it worked in Blue Lock for me.
Did it?
Dang, that's
Yeah.
crazy.
I don't know.
Because-
Blue Lock had those moments where it shift to 3D to CG, and I was just like, this is kind of.
I never paid so much attention to animation until later on, like with us doing.
it is
JSP.
also like a significant
Because-
change in time since we've been on this cast, and I'm sure we have I'm sure you have changed as a person. I'm curious if you were to rewatch it. I'm curious if you were to rewatch Blue Lock.
That's true. Because now I'm asking, like, what studio?
Right.
What's
Right.
Studio Orange? What have they done?
Right.
Before I was like, what?
Because I'm not going to
What's
say.
a studio?
Because it's obviously not bad. We collectively like Blue Lock.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think if you were to rewatch it, maybe
Yeah,
your
I'm
opinion will
curious.
change. Maybe.
I know you mentioned Mashal being like ugly, and then after I watched it, I was like,
Well, so I think
wow.
I actually quite like the anime more than the manga, but the manga I think is way uglier. But
The manga is uglier than the anime?
yeah,
Because the anime is super ugly.
Damn.
I wouldn't go that far. But
It's super ugly.
but I mean, it is drawing from the manga, so it's like, yeah, if you think it's
You know what's a fun one to
What?
like compare? The manga for campfire cooking
uh-huh.
and the animation.
Really?
Holy shit. The campfire cooking manga is hideous.
Is it Campfire Cooking Mappa?
Oh.
What's
I think
Mappa?
so. The studio Mappa. So they also
Oh,
did
thanks.
Jujutsu Kaisen.
What?
Yes.
Yeah.
That's a very pretty one.
That is very pretty one.
Yeah.
Same with campfire cooking, I guess, because they do a lot of detail to the
Right.
food.
Mhm.
The manga is hideous.
Yeah.
It's like One Punch,
Hmm.
Oh,
but like more stick figure.
Okay.
that's interesting. So, I do agree that like original One Punch by One is ugly. Do you think it's bad though? So this is like an interesting question with one as an artist in general.
Bad. What's bad?
So this is weird to describe, and now we're going out there. We're going away from Trigun.
Gotcha.
Do you think it is bad that it's ugly?
Which one?
One
One
Punch Man,
One Punch.
as
but
drawn by One, not Yusuke Murata.
The original One Punch manga. Or have you seen it?
I have.
Okay.
It's actually kind of on par with some of the other stuff I used to watch or read in Shonen Jump.
Mhm.
So it didn't stand out to me as being like bad.
Okay. Because it is widely considered ugly, but like I think what a lot of people resonate with One Punch Man is that like even though it is ugly, he One, the author and illustrator, really stands by like I don't care, because like there's a lot of like characters in like his content that also like hate on the person who is like overpowered.
I mean, it's like Mob, right?
It's the same author.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, and
So-
and so like
I mean, look at Reagan and Mob's
right,
relationship. He could absolutely.
but there is a profound understanding of line economy. Do you know what line economy
Yes.
is? Okay, yeah, there's a profound understanding of line economy.
Explain line economy for anybody who.
Okay, so line economy is if you have a simpler design, it is easier to be more expressive with it. A good example, actually, in classic animation is Rubber Hose.
Mm.
Rubber Hose animation is
Yeah.
very simple, but it is very expressive. And so that's why you'll see like some maybe more like crazy detailed anime characters be much more stiff.
Mm-hmm.
Like they're just always standing straight and they're barely moving. It's because they don't have the budget to animate them crazy and make them more expressive and make them do actual movements that like give them character. Whereas if you have a simple design, you can do insane stuff. That's why like when you see Mob Psycho,
Mm-hmm.
it's such a simple design that they literally are like, what if
Oh.
we took acrylic to glass? And I'm like, that is an insane statement. Do you understand? Like, to animate that is wild.
Yeah.
And they were like, there's nothing else to animate here. It's just 3 lines. That is how this is the character. And but that's why like kind of his manga from page to screen is always impressive, except for like the second season of One Punch Man.
Mm-hmm.
But that's because they had to follow up was it Madhouse?
I think.
Yeah.
So.
And so like that's what line economy is. And even if his work is ugly, one could argue that his line economy is maybe the best in the
Yeah,
business.
his profit margins are high.
Yeah. And you know, to the point where like Yusuke Murata, arguably the greatest manga artist currently working, was like, but what if I drew it? You know?
Mm-hmm.
And then look what we get. Yusuke Murata like gets it. He still retains the like, oh, this is just gonna be 3 circles on this page because it's funny, and then he's gonna draw the most detailed person on earth on the next page. You know, like, it's a weird match made in heaven for Yusuke Murata to like work with one. But
It's a tough balance to strike with making something beautiful,
right,
like animation wise, and then also staying true to the tone.
Yeah.
And I mean, One Punch, I couldn't imagine it being pretty the whole time,
Right.
like 3D or not.
you have to take it. You have to take a hit.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Nothing is perfect all the time.
It follows that you remember we were talking about music earlier, where it's like they have a tone you hear, you're like, oh, I recognize this artist immediately. As soon as like you bump a chicken.
Yes.
One Piece, or sorry, not One Piece. One Punch. You see that animation, and then I see Mob, and I was like, wow, this kind of looks a little familiar. I was like, oh, it's the same creators.
Yeah.
Like, oh,
Same,
okay, cool.
illustrators,
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm like, great. Now I know I'm in for a good time. Because
Right.
I got that tone from the previous one.
Right,
It's like the
right.
signature is so cool to hold, even as ugly as it is. But like, I love how honest it is too.
Right. And yeah, that's the beauty of One's works. And that's why, like, with the Blue Lock stuff,
Yeah, now I'm like,
so
You guys made me
with the blue,
uncomfortable.
like I said, like in my opinion, I can feel kind of the difference. Like, yeah, there's that choppy moment in Trigun, but I think they are swinging for something. Whereas I feel like Blue Lock is more of a shortcut.
Yes. Yeah.
And yeah, so that's just my opinion on it. But I think in general, Studio Orange's like 3D animations, at least in Japan anime, their strongest soldier.
I think so.
so
think
they
so.
did. You said, oh, we looked this up earlier. Beastars.
Yeah.
Yes, stars.
That's 3D as well.
I believe
Yeah.
so. Yeah, yeah.
That one looked very, very seamless, but it's also not human.
Right.
So maybe that's why it's more acceptable
Right.
in that. So okay, cool.
Yeah.
They're exploring.
They're exploring, and they're gonna try. They're gonna challenge it. And at this point, like, I know it had a stigma, or it has a stigma. It still has that stigma, but we weren't gonna get the good until we got the bad first, because because it was
You got to
We're
go
unfamiliar
through.
territory.
You got to go through the growing pains.
yeah, exactly.
Right. Someone has to stick with it and be like, we're gonna figure this out.
Right.
Right. And I can think of like two studios. Right. So it's like you have Studio Orange and then like David Productions explores
Which one
this a
have they
lot. JoJo's.
Oh yeah,
They explore 3D
it
animation.
was
a
so
lot.
good.
Oh,
They're OPs.
Yeah, right.
So
exactly.
good.
So like those are the two studios that are like, we're going to play with it. We're going to figure it out.
Right.
And then like with JoJo's, like every season gets better and better at it.
Right.
And you see with Studio Orange, everything that they do, they get better and better
Right.
at it. Right.
Right.
They're currently working on season 2 of Trigun. So it's like,
Right.
I'm sure they're going to take the lessons that they've learned from this and be like, we're going to come back harder.
Right.
You know,
Mm-hmm.
I'm excited for that.
Yeah, me too. All right. Is there anything else that we would like to talk about? Actually, because I've went through my list.
I think it's from someone that's watched the original.
Uh-huh.
I think it's very interesting how they repurposed a lot of the characters
Yeah.
for this. It's
Uh-huh.
very fascinating to me.
Oh yeah, give me that breakdown.
so like I think like early on, right? So like E.G. the Mine, for example,
Right.
which was the one of the first
Bomber.
villains. The bomber, right?
Yeah.
Right. He was a fucking jobber in the original. Like he lasted like 5 minutes and he was just fucking gone. Like just a character, just a throwaway character. Like they did absolutely nothing on scene. Like they show up, they're like, "Hi, I'm the enemy," and then just get like bopped like 2 seconds late, literally 2 seconds later. They
Right.
didn't do anything.
Oh, this guy was
Right.
close to that because he caused some damage. Though.
He caused some damage though, right? Like he got a.
There was threatening
There was
instances.
there was threatening instances with him with the bombs and the mines and like shit
Right.
was getting out of hand before Knives sort of stepped in and like said, "We're going to stop this."
I like that because
Right.
you said Knives said that, and I was like, Knives is the bad.
Knives is a bad guy. Like he was
And
the
Knives is the one who goes, nah, we're just.
nah. This is my show,
Right.
right? But like E.G. the Mine was a threat in the eyes of like Ash and everybody else around him. Like
Right.
he was causing some serious damage, and he got a sick redesign as well. Like
Yeah.
originally he just looked awful.
Oh,
And I was like, oh, this is like a really cool pitch for this character that one doesn't show up till way later in the original, and two just gets thrown away literally 2 seconds later. I was
almost,
like,
it was
oh.
like a cameo almost.
Like, in some ways,
Yeah.
right? It was like really cool to see. Things like Rolo, for example. Rolo
Mhm.
was not a character in the original, but
What at all?
at all. Rolo was not a character. They actually took a different character and gave his story to Rolo,
What?
which
You
is
just do that?
which is wild to me, and it worked.
Oh,
Because, like, the body that Rolo ended up inhabiting, right?
Mhm.
Like that weird
giant cyborg.
giant cyborg
Yeah.
thing, right? Originally, he was Monev the Gale in the original show. And his purpose in that show was to push Vash to the absolute like brink. Because like Vash's whole thing is like, I will not kill anybody, right? I will save everybody. In the original, Monev is just a ruthless killer, right? And we see that a bit here in Stampede, right? He killed everybody in the village, like he didn't have control of himself, right? In the original, he just wants to murder everybody and he wants Vash to suffer, right? And he is like, Vash, you have to kill me. Like I will keep killing people. You cannot reason with me. I will fucking kill everybody. And he does. Women, children, everything. Just bombs the entire city. And it leads to like one of the hardest shots in all of Trigun, where like Vash finally like pins him down and like he has gun to his temple.
This is OG.
This is OG.
Okay.
And he has gun to temple. And it's like one of these moments is like, is Vash going to actually shoot him?
This happened too in Stampede.
It does happen in Stampede.
He holds him down, but it's momentarily, and it's just like a pleading thing.
Right. It's a very interesting moment in the original, and the fact that like they did something slightly different in Stampede, where like you guys saw Zazie, right, which was like the guy that controls like the bugs and stuff, right, completely different character.
Oh, is Zazie a thing in original?
The original, completely different character.
What?
So Zazie in the original is an orphan kid, right, that kind of pushes Vash in the same way of like he's holding Meryl and some other orphan kids hostage, and he's like, I'm going to kill them unless you kill me, right? And the person that ends up killing Zazie, despite Vash trying to plead with him, is Wolfwood.
Okay.
Right? So like we see in Stampede, who stopped Rolo? Wolfwood. Right? They took Zazie's story, applied it to Monev, and gave it to Rolo in this one.
Yeah.
Wow.
And I was like, that is such a wild fucking move.
No, so like
it was so fucking cool to see.
Right.
What an interesting dynamic to put with the religious context of, hey, you resolve me of everything that I am guilty of and want to get rid of. I'm gonna hold this gun to your head to say, resolve me of this, save me, salvation. But it's like, what do you do to deserve this? Like, you're putting a gun to my head to put a gun to your head. Like, so really, you're putting the gun to your head. What an interesting...
It's
like,
interesting.
Hero with 1,000 faces. The hero with 1,000 faces takes many shapes.
That's so interesting. So that's what original Trigun did?
Original Trigun did that.
Because those are very different characters from what we watched in Stampede.
It's very different characters, and they took like these two characters and just combined them into one to create Rolo.
And yet not.
And still very much its own thing. Its own thing. And that's like Stampede as a whole.
I mean,
we're just taking like these pieces of all these characters and like repurposing them and like changing things. And it's like it's an era of familiarity, but it's different. It's the same thing.
It is a true reimagining in that regard.
Yeah, I mean, Rolo felt like a contrived character in this respect. Like, he didn't feel like he belonged, honestly. Like, as we were watching his intro, it was, we just jumped in. We woke up.
We didn't know what it was.
Yeah.
And then we see this kid praying. Like,
right.
Oh, and oh, sickness. Okay, he's going to die of tuberculosis. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
But we were like, this is kind of unusual to this world. We haven't seen sickness. We haven't seen people.
Right.
And a society. Okay, now we're watching him go through this, like, religious ritual. Oh, he's in a cult. Oh, and he comes home. So it's like his character is built so differently.
Yeah.
Where we're building this world, where Vash is supposed to be like the saving figure in a world that he doesn't necessarily belong in.
Right.
Because we didn't have that in the Bible either.
No.
That's like, wow. It's complex.
At the end of the day, if Trigun Stampede is a retelling of Trigun and Trigun was just a retelling of the Bible, it's just...
It's telephone.
It's just telephone game.
It's just telephone game.
Yeah.
Which actually says he's just a guy.
Yeah.
Right.
Wow.
And then I found it was very interesting the role that they decided to give Zazie and Stampede.
Yeah.
As well as like this spokesperson of like the creatures that have been here before.
The worms.
Everybody. The worms.
Yeah.
Right.
And they're just a force of nature.
They're a force of nature because in the original, Zazie again was just an orphan kid. Like he could control the worms, but it was through like a mechanical device, right? And that was only used like one time, like real quick.
Yeah.
Right. So they completely scrapped that, gave his story a little bit to Rolo here, and it was like, we're going to just completely.
This is a character. Yeah. They're seeing it through to the end.
They're seeing it through, and they gave him like a sick fucking. Like, I love Zaz's design in Stampede. I think it's so fucking cool.
Yeah.
Instead of just being like little blonde boy, like pew pew, like whatever, get out of here.
Yeah, and actually like threatening presence.
And a somewhat threatening presence, right?
And arguably one that is also potentially at ends with Nye too, potentially, because
Well, it's like I don't take sides.
I don't take.
Yeah,
I'm just
right.
whichever side allows us to continue living. Basically.
right,
But also ask the question, who's more beneficial to my planet?
Right.
right,
And it was also like from the human standpoint, right? Because you're from the audience
Right.
side, you're watching this. Also, Meryl's there, listening to this, so Meryl's representing the humans. Who is more beneficial? It's like, well, humans actually kind of detract a lot. And we also destroyed a whole planet.
We're kind of fucked up.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Like we kind of suck.
I get it.
yeah.
So,
Like once again, it's not about good or evil.
Yeah.
It's not about what's right or wrong.
which I think that character was supposed to represent the most neutral, but
Mhm.
I feel like they still already had a leaning.
Yeah.
And I do have a qualm
Mm.
that I wrote down with that character.
hmm
Mhm.
Was that character in that scene with the ships and
Yeah.
stuff.
Mhm.
Also, where the fuck did the blue-haired telekinetic guy go?
Legato.
Yeah.
They didn't really
Slow.
do a much. They didn't really do a good job setting up
Explain him to me, because he disappeared and we never saw him again.
Legato. and we won't until season 2.
Yeah, I think they're holding that gun for season 2.
They're holding that gun for.
Where'd he
season
go?
2. He's away. Till come back.
Oh, okay, so he went on like leave for a little
He
while.
went on leave for a little. He was
I
like,
could see-
"Dang,
I could
curses
see that
spoiled
qualm.
again. I'm
It was
coming
annoying
back."
because it was
I
like
could see
he
that
was
qualm.
super fucking powerful. Like
Yeah.
he like
Yeah,
literally is like he's reading a book. He goes,
yeah.
Yeah.
I could see the qualm there.
He is very much like a late game villain in like the original. Like Legato, when he shows up, it is like a true threat. Like
Yeah.
he's probably one of the more fucked up characters in the original.
Right.
Oh my
Like
God.
even compared to Knives in some ways. Like
Right.
he will just toy with human life, and he just wants to toy.
he said
with
it too.
Ash.
He was
Yeah.
like, I just want to watch Undertaker.
Yeah.
That's his toy.
Right,
is
right.
Undertaker.
He's just fucking with them.
Right.
But they didn't really set him up too well now.
hmm
But I see where we're going with season 2, and I'm like, okay, they're gonna
We'll
lean
be
head-
fine.
Yeah, they're
Is
gonna.
there for sure gonna be a season
Mhm.
2?
They
Yeah.
confirmed it. They're working on it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
So
And Millie Thompson. I can't wait to see Millie Thompson.
it is really cool, right? They announced Millie Thompson, and originally Meryl worked for an insurance agency,
Yeah, with
right?
Millie.
So with Millie, right? So like they
Wait, in which canon? Or
in
which-
the
original.
original Trigun,
Oh, okay.
she
Yeah,
wasn't a
journalist.
reporter. She worked with an
Journalist
insurance.
is way more interesting.
Journalist is a cool angle.
Yeah.
Like I thought it was very, very cool. And then at the end, like they hint at the whole insurance agency
Seems
stuff.
like Noir, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. It does.
A lot of it does, honestly.
Yeah.
Mm.
And it leans more into the audience, right? If the audience is Meryl, a journalist is a watcher.
Yeah.
And especially
And not
the
a
case.
participant.
Right.
Yeah.
So like that leans more into it. So it was a really good choice. I'm not gonna say it's the
Yeah.
best choice, but it's like because I don't know what the best choice is. I'm not the one making the choice.
Right.
But
It was-
it's
it
a
was-
fantastic
It's a
decision.
that's how I felt throughout the entirety of watching Stampede.
Yeah.
Where I'm just like every decision they made, I'm just like, this is
Yeah.
fantastic. This is great.
And it's made with gusto. Like
Yes.
they are very like
Confident.
this is the right
This
decision.
is it.
You know, like even if we were to in hindsight be like, yeah, I think I agree with you. Now, like in hindsight, man, maybe they should not have just introduced Legato.
Mm. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe not. You know what? I could feel that.
They didn't have
Um,
to.
But-
They had all those like pirates that came on to
Yeah.
take a selfie of us.
But yeah, oh,
Wait,
those
wait.
guys are hilarious.
Which it's really funny because like that arc in the original, like there is a whole big bad of that gang
Yeah.
that they just did not do anything with in here,
right.
right? And I'm like, well, y'all could have just threw him in here instead of Legato,
Right.
Yeah.
right? We could have just ran that arc as we
Right.
did originally.
Yep.
But like I said, the rest of the
But-
decisions, and that decision too, it's made with gusto.
Yeah.
It's like this is right, and
Mhm.
and I admire that. So especially in the face of a property that is so well beloved, and you know, with the internet age, is I mean, I'm sure I try to avoid this discourse because it's
Yeah.
just awful, but I'm sure people just have qualms about this show.
Of course, as with anything, right?
Yeah,
when you
right.
remake an old thing, like people are going to be like,
It's too sacred, the original.
whatever. Like I know a lot of people don't like Vash's new design.
Yeah.
And I'm like, y'all are fucking insane. Like,
Yeah,
shit
you're
is
wild for this
He's
one.
beautiful.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
love him. He is
Yeah.
awesome. And you do get like a small hint of the original Vash at the last episode.
Yeah, his hair's up.
His hair is up, and you're just like, oh,
Up at the end.
that's Vash.
Oh, yeah, he's the
exactly.
90s.
Yeah,
exactly.
that shit spikes up, and you're like, I see the vision.
Yeah.
And then that.
I see the Vasion.
I see the vision.
And to bring back Millie, and to bring in Millie Thompson
And to
will
bring-
show up. This was a prequel the entire
This
time.
was a prequel,
idiots.
right?
You know,
But
like,
before Vash had the Vash look and everything, right? I don't know if they'll change it for season 2. Who knows?
sure.
Oh, I'm so sad
Um,
because I liked his hair.
I love it too.
Yeah, me too.
But it's cool. And then like at the very very end, we get to see him as Eric's, right? Like that's that
Okay,
bit.
I
Yeah,
was so confused
Yeah.
at that moment.
yeah.
We
They-
I
said,
get it.
Eric's? I was
There's
like, who the fuck is an Eric's? Are we in like Attack on Titan now? Like, what the fuck?
it's another weird. It's another thing where like. So that's something that happens later in the original, right?
Right.
Like that is post July that's supposed to happen, but they're deciding to use it here, which I'm like, that's a choice.
That's a horrible way
But
to
I'm also
end it.
but I'm also okay
If you know that you're going to do season 2.
if you know you're gonna do it.
No,
It's like-
I don't know if I'm going to do a season 2. I don't know whether this is something worth me following because I feel like this is a good
Well, they
tie-in.
know. They know that they're going to do
It's a little tease.
Do they though? At the
I
time
think
of the
they
end,
do.
at the time of the end, that
They were confident.
Yeah. Like I said, these decisions are made with gusto, and I felt it.
They were confident. I don't know, but there's that small little time skip that occurs, and you're just presented with Eric's who
Yeah.
is
Who?
Eric. So I was like, who the fuck is
Who?
Eric?
right.
You still have to
And-
watch season 2 to find out,
and-
idiots.
That if we're opening with like that arc, I can't wait to see what they do. Cause I love that particular arc of Trigun. So I'm
Okay.
like,
I know nothing about it, but I'm excited.
this is where we start.
I honestly
Okay.
thought it was rude to just enter this whole thing of Eric's.
No,
As
You
if
have
we're
to get- you have
supposed
to
to
get-
understand it.
You have to get people to
I
want
loved
to
it.
watch season 2.
I love it.
So, especially with as final as how the season feels.
Mhm.
So,
Hmm.
Like I can see where we go for season 2.
right.
Like there's a lot more of the villains that they can bring in, and I'm
Yeah.
curious to see how they'll repurpose them and change them around. Because there's some other ones that were kind of Jobber-esque, and I'm just like, y'all are gonna fucking do some crazy
You're
shit
gonna
with
make me
these
feel
guys.
some wild way about this
You
person
know?
that I never thought I could.
I
feel.
would actually care for.
Yeah.
There's a sick samurai character that I'm like, y'all could do more with this guy. I'm like, all right, I'm in.
I mean, in a
100%.
world of apocalypse where everything can go to hell,
Yeah.
creating new characters you have to sympathize with,
Mhm.
I don't know. Sounds exhausting.
That's why it's their job.
True.
So yeah.
But yeah,
What else? Anything else?
that OP rocks.
Banger.
Oh yeah,
Speaking
fantastic.
of, yeah,
Beautiful.
not a
Beautiful.
dud. Never skipped it. Yeah.
Beautiful.
Yep.
That OP rocks.
Mhm.
Actually, Paul was in another room, and then he was like getting food for us, and he heard the OP, and he was like, hey, "This is like I thought Post Malone was playing because it has a little bit of a modern sound to it."
It has a very modern sound.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Mhm.
so
Very
it was
modern
good. It's a good OP.
Yeah.
It does do a little bit of a giveaway
Mhm.
thing that we were talking about, where like, oh, the OPs don't give away like what's gonna
Mm.
happen. You know, they don't
Mhm.
spoilers. My Hero Academia, you gotta spoil a lot of
They
stuff.
do.
But this one did spoil a little bit,
I like it.
but it was pretty. It was pretty.
It's very, very
It was
pretty.
very pretty.
Yeah.
Let me see. I think I actually got there on my notes.
Shouts to Trigun.
Shout out
So,
to Trigun.
but generally speaking, I think we all agree. Yes.
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 Oh my
I
goodness.
love
Yes.
Trigun.
It's
Maybe
a great
Stampede.
experience to share with friends.
Definitely,
Absolutely.
probably one of my favorites that we watched. Once again, all I've learned from this experience is that Rob likes plants.
I love plants.
He did Pluto and Trigun back to back, and there's just a lot of plants.
So many plants.
He loves plants.
I'm a big plant person.
So that's
Respect the plants.
right. All right. So before we get to our where could people find you and all that jazz and upcoming stuff, do you guys want to know what the next anime is we're
No.
watching? That's
Yes.
fair. I mean, like, I get it.
Don't tell
I
me.
have a tendency to swing for defenses sometimes.
What are we watching, Asher?
This is one of those moments I
gosh.
feel like.
I've been dying
So
to know since
so
last
I,
week.
Me
so,
too.
so I don't know if we'll like it, but I'm
Uh-oh.
really
I'm
excited.
down for an experiment.
I'm really excited. I hope I love it.
What if he hates it?
it is?
What if we love it
is-
and Asher hates it?
And once again, then yeah, I'll take that. I want to take this hit. I'm thrilled for that thought.
Oh, okay.
It
He's
is
thrilled.
I'm thrilled. It is an OVA.
Mm.
So going back to it, an original.
Okay, explain what OVA is.
Original video animation. So
Meaning?
it's not based on a manga or a book or any other thing. It is
No
it's
source
script.
material.
Yeah, no source material. Its script is originally written. It is OVA is another way to say it is a TV show. Just a TV show that is not inspired by anything. Animation Studio, the in-house studio for Cygames. So, oh yeah.
Wait, what?
They Uma Musume and Grand Blue.
Oh, Uma is the horse.
Yes.
Right?
Shout out to Horse Girl. And the anime is Akiba Maid War.
Oh, okay.
What is this?
Have you seen Akiba Maid War?
A little bit.
Yeah, you watched some of it.
A little bit.
Do you like it?
I'll
From
save
the-
that for the next episode.
All right, cool. That makes sense.
Akiba Maybor. All right.
Yeah.
I got Kate Middleton. What do I get?
A Kate Middleton.
Were you expecting Akiba Maid War?
No, I wasn't. That was
No.
not where I was thinking. I was racking my brain.
For me.
Huh?
AKIBA.
AKIBA.
War.
And then Maid War.
Oh, Maid War. That's right.
Yeah, like maids.
Oh, like French maids?
Yeah.
I was not expecting Akiba Maid War. I was sitting here thinking, I'm like, what is he
Ew.
gonna pull?
I mean, sure.
Wait, why are you doing? Out of
The
curiosity.
first artwork that showed up, I was like, ooh,
Mm, mm.
You don't like maids?
no,
Do you not like
Cool.
mates?
no.
Hmm. Interesting.
It's
What-
a
so-
female.
so-
it's female
so-
submission. So
I understand.
So your immediate reaction to this, I'm curious as to what you think this is.
I have no idea.
All right.
I hear war, so I'm like, okay, I like blood.
Like there's a chance.
because I'm gonna tell you right now, part of its funny haha promotion is that it is under a certain guise, and we'll just have to see how that is handled.
I mean, so I don't know why I saw this, but I saw like an execution scene, and I feel like it had something to do with maid wars, where they're like you have to code the code of the like the maids or whatever, and it was like it's like almost like a yakuza type scene. A female got like executed from that, but I don't know why I saw that or anything. But
Is that from this show? Maybe.
it might be, but
We'll
so,
find out.
How
Guess we'll
many episodes is it, and how long are the episodes?
It's like 30-minute show, or I say 30. We're not watching with commercials, so it's like 23 minutes, 12 episodes, I think.
I
Okay.
believe it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, 12
Is it done?
episodes.
Yep, it's done.
Oh, okay.
2022.
It is a front to back story. I think it has a definitive beginning and end. And yeah, just an OVA and nothing else from that. I haven't seen it. I was pretty sure that you hadn't seen it, but I guess you watched some of it.
Few episodes.
I might
few
have
episodes.
too, which is funny.
Okay. Oh,
Alright.
damn.
Yeah.
I was so certain.
Yeah.
Ugh, can I take back my answer? No.
No,
Because I do want to watch it.
I've also solidified mine for after you.
Oh, wow,
I'm
that's
so
wild.
curious.
Yeah.
But that's so much more later. All right, Rob, do you have
Go.
anything to promote / are you doing anything, and where can people find you?
You can follow me on Twitter at Zenosuke, ZNOSUKE. I'm not doing anything super interesting. I just finished playing Final Fantasy V.
Hell yeah.
Surprised me. I think that is my favorite 2D Final Fantasy game at the moment.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah, that game, I think it is better than 4.
Oh, man, I love 4.
I really liked 4 the second time I played it.
Yeah.
Like I didn't really care for 4 too much the first time. Second time I was like, oh, this game rocks. And then 5, I'm like, I think this game is better.
Oh,
But what about 6?
oh,
What about 6?
oh.
What about 6?
Looks like
I
we'll have to
am
replay to find out.
notoriously.
Oh, you're notoriously a 6's mid guy?
Oh,
It's
look at
okay.
them hands! Look at them hands!
Damn,
though.
that's
Look at
shocking.
them hands.
I don't hate 6. I think it's all right, but it's not up there for me.
Yeah, some people put it top one.
Some people say it's the best game of all time, and I'm just like, oh, their opinions. So I'm very curious to see. 6 is coming up.
Talk to you about that.
6 is coming up. Coming up next. So
we'll do a power hour and talk about Final Fantasy.
Oh,
we will.
Let's do that.
I'm slowly putting together my tier list.
No.
I have a working tier list, and I'll post that when I'm done with everything. But so yeah, that's about it. JSB Gamescast coming up in like June.
Excited.
Probably the first or second week of June.
When are you going to dispel the dispel? When are you going to discuss the? Aren't there other specifics about changes to the JSB?
I can talk a little bit about that. Okay. So we're breaking up the JSB Gamescast into 2 different shows that we're going to alternate every 2 weeks. Mm-hmm. So the first one is going to be like a traditional Gamescast where it's going to be me, Drew, and Ryan, and probably one other guest if I can pull whoever in. Where it's just like it's the old format is very much like, hey, what have you been doing? Kind of like what we do here a little bit.
Sure.
What have you been up to? What games have you been playing? Let's kind of talk about that stuff here.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe run through a few news articles that stand out. Kind of like very simple things.
Mm-hmm.
The second show that'll run on the off week is more of like our book club style that we do here.
Right.
This was an idea that was pitched by Drew a while ago, and I was just like, how do we work this in? But I finally figured out the logistics of it. So
yeah.
We'll basically pick a game where we all kind of play and sample. Don't have to play it to completion, but like get a good feel for it, and then we come and we just have one subject on that.
I think that is fascinating, considering like all 3 of you are very different.
We are very different.
So like for everyone to have to play like this game is like, if they choose to.
It's an interesting thing because, like, yeah, we are very different. I'm very flexible. I play everything, anything you put it in front of me, I'm down for it. Other people are a little more picky about what it is. And also, we're all adults and we have time. And sometimes you don't want to spend your time doing something you don't like. So, like,
that makes complete sense.
Which complete sense. So I'm like, how do I square this in? So really, that second show is kind of open to a lot of people around me. So we're like, I will announce what game we play. Right, it'll be
me if you ever pick For Your Eyes. Just me pog facing. Like
I will announce it. I'll probably throw it in your Discord. I'll throw it in Facebook. Be like, hey, if anybody's interested in playing this, play it for the next like 2 weeks or so, and then if you want to come on and talk about it with us.
Talk to it.
Talk to it. Hey, come on and do that.
Right.
So that's kind of like an open invitation for everybody. So I think that'll be.
I'm hyped up for it.
Yeah. That's it.
I need it.
Me too.
All right, Jenny, where can people find you, and do you have anything to promote?
I do. So I started my own company, and I am going to sponsor a few of JSB events that we're coming up with. So June, we actually have Bold Matsuri in Jacksonville, Florida, at the Prime Osborne Convention Center.
Whoa.
Let's go!
So we're going to do some giveaways. We'll keep you guys posted on what those giveaways are, but they are sponsored by a company, which is an IT company specializing in cybersecurity and IT solutions for small to medium-sized businesses. So follow us, keep up with us, and maybe we'll see you there.
Where can people follow and keep up with you?
Well, I mean, they could just follow this amazing podcast and anime cast. But they guys also follow my cybersecurity podcast called HackFit Highlights.
Do it.
It's all about cybersecurity stories and also just understanding about how you might be privy to cyber attacks by cyber pirates. It's also a thing. It's absolutely a thing.
The One Piece is real in cybersecurity.
It absolutely is. So yeah.
We'll drop the link in the notes.
Yeah. Makes sense.
Yeah.
All right. And then as for me, I am trying to stream more. I've been streaming Hades 2. I started Fatal Frame.
You did.
Fatal Frame rules. I'm a believer now. So that's been a lot of fun. So you can catch me on Twitch /Pinoy_Grigio TTV. We also have the comeback of the Charity Clash.
Ooh!
Hyper excited about the comeback of the Charity Clash. It's been a long time coming. Life gets in the way sometimes, but we get back on track for the things that we love. We don't have an insane amount of details yet. What I can tell you is it will be team based. We'll be divvied up into teams. Also, Rob and Jenny will also be on it.
I've never played this game before.
He's never played Dead by Daylight.
I have.
She has. And there are varying skill levels. There's people who have been rank 1 in both Killer or Survivor. There are people in the middle. There are people who haven't played before, like at all. And I think that is fun. I think, I'm very curious as to how it's all going to shake out. I've been talking with a bunch of goons about how to run it.
What's the day that it's going to be released?
It'll be July 6th.
July 6th.
We'll
Save the
stream
date.
Yeah. We'll be streaming it. It'll be on my stream, but also Steph's stream. If you guys are familiar with Pixel Hearts, which if you watch my streams, you definitely are. I stream with her every Friday. I don't know. Just super excited. Might learn a new killer for that one. Might learn Sadako for any Japanese cinema fans.
I love Sadako.
Yeah, Sadako rules.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, there's that comeback, and then otherwise you can find me here. You can find me on Instagram. You can find me on Twitter. Twitter is same thing, Pinot Grigio. Anything else? Thinking,
So
processing.
no, next one's gonna be a great time.
Yeah, hopefully.
Yep.
What if it is really good?
What if?
Will you be like, whoa?
Or no.
Yeah, could be.
Whoa or no, find out next time.
Find out next time. Take care, y'all. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.